Report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by.
Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
Red Fox standing by. Red Skeleton standing by. Hey guys, look at the date. What is the date today? It's May 4th. May the 4th be with you. You have to say it with a lisp. It's not gay enough. Yes, I'm here in my Star Wars shirt. I've only got one. Right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the Mail. Don't steal my stuff. There you go. I only own one Star Wars shirt, and I have chosen to wear it on today's show. I don't think the 4th has ever come on a Sunday like this, so I've never really had an option to do it.
Because I like my peace, first of all.
What if a woman brings you that?
There's no such thing as that.
You don't think there's no such thing as a woman bringing
There's
man
no
peace?
such thing as somebody living with you on a day-to-day basis is bringing peace. It's always going to be something, because you're going to have a bad day where I'll have a good day, and that's not going to be peaceful for me. I'm going to come home like, damn, baby, like I had a good... Something going to happen to where you going to hijack my emotions. So that's not peaceful. You feel me? Peace is peace. And peace is me by myself. I come home, I watch TV, I make my own food, I go to bed, I work out, I wake up at 5:30, I roll over in the bed, I lean this way, I fart, whatever I do, whatever, in my bed, that's peace. I'm cool. I can let loud snore, whatever. I ain't got nobody complaining about nothing.
I was going on dates with a man. And nice guy, good guy. Treated me well.
That is good.
But
damn, there's a but. There's a but. Why is there always a but?
But once I realized that he was not my husband, because I'm only looking for husband energy at the moment, I ended things with him.
Jesus Christ, on the back. These days, being a good and nice man is not enough anymore. You have to be Duracell battery too and bring energy.
Anyway, so sent him a text, told him that I didn't see it going any further.
Lady, you are hungry. The Lord served you with a good, well-cooked chicken, and you decided not to eat it because of the chicken's energy. You will starve.
He agreed. He said that he didn't think that he could make me happy. And while I appreciate that, it was a very kind response, he didn't even try.
For what? You didn't want him to respect your wishes or what?
He didn't even try. He didn't even try and say that he wanted to change, that he wanted to whatever. I can be manipulated. I will listen to you. But you didn't even try.
Mother of Lord. She wanted the Lord to manipulate her. What type of twisted mind games is that? She thinks dating is PlayStation 5. Lady, if you want to play games, go and download Candy Crush and leave this good man alone.
I got to do a sound drop out of good Lord, good of Lord.
I always told myself I would never be a side chick. No, I have too much self-respect. I would never do that to another woman. But hear me out. Hear me out before you judge side chicks. So you're telling me I can get dick down 3-4 times a week on my terms and then kick him out afterwards? So long story short, I don't have to cook for this motherfucker. I don't have to clean up after him. I don't have to deal with his badass kids. I don't have to deal with baby mama drama. I don't have to worry if this man's cheating on me because he's cheating on his girl. Any chance he gets, he's fucking me. Yeah, I know where he's at. He's with his wife and kids. I don't have to answer to a man to where I'm going, who I'm hanging out with. I can still get multiple meat sticks. And I don't have to share my money. And you wonder why girls are side chicks. Even men, you even wonder why the fuck men fucking are side dudes. It all makes sense now. Side chicks and side dudes are living their best fucking life. They know what the fuck's going on. They knew what was going on. My thought process is, damn, he's got a girl, he's got good dick. I'ma fuck him, but I know where I stay at. I don't have to worry about getting cheated on. I don't have to worry about getting left. I know my place. I am a side chick. Call me fucking homewrecker. But, Sounds like paradise by being a side chick or a side dude.
Show a man a photograph of a woman who's dressed like a CEO and she's gorgeous, and you show a man a picture of a woman who's dressed like a Burger King service, person, and she's drop dead gorgeous. Men are going to find her similarly attractive in both conditions. It doesn't matter. The woman could be doing, it doesn't matter what the woman is doing. And there's been research that shows this. They'll show men and women photographs of people in different types of outfits, and the men's ratings of how attractive the women are has just everything to do with how attractive the women are. For women rating men, it all depends on what they're wearing, right? Do they show cues to resource access? Do they not show cues to resource access? And women tend to modulate how physically attractive they find men based on whether or not they have these cues related to provisioning ability.
I gotta stop it here. Like, this chick is like a psychologist, or she's like a clinical, like she has a practice of some sort. So she's basically rattling off the same stuff that like the red pill's been rattling off for 10 or 20 years now. Like, how come like there's nobody trying to ratio this bitch? Like, how come it's okay when she says it, but when Rollo Tomasi says exactly the same thing? Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking. He doesn't have any credentials. He doesn't have a degree on his wall.
Out my own party, but the young girls on the right promoting this like trad wife bullshit. I just want to make sourdough for my husband. That's great. I'm all for it. I promote traditional values. I understand. I have been working since I was very young. I don't really plan on stopping working. I suggest you find a hobby that makes you money. But you guys, guess what? Guess what, baby girl? That lifestyle working out, a man, a provider, you just get to sit at home, bake bread every day, slim to none. I would say none that's going to work out for you, or quite literally anyone you know. You're actually setting yourself up for failure, because it could not be easier, if that's what you're going to pursue, to be trapped by a man. Okay? Also, let's bring some other things to the table besides sourdough. Guys want to be mentally stimulated as well as physical, okay? But I'm just like, please, you guys are
no.
too young to be promoting this. And also, by the way, it's cringe. You guys are...
God, I hate that term. It's cringe. Can we like find a new word like for 2025, please?
Then I'll keep loving you way past 65. We made a language for us to...
Sorry, I gotta take the music out here. There.
You look at statistically what women are most attracted to, it's more of a lean body type like this. 22 to 26 BMI. So 26 is a little bit bulked up. 22 is lean like this model guy.
No, Ty, that's body fat percentage is what you need to be focusing on, not BMI.
So you can actually build around what's most sexually attractive. It actually correlates very closely with what's the most healthy physique. Some people say BMI isn't accurate, but it's pretty damn accurate. Your frame can only hold so much. So if you bulk too big on a smaller frame, your BMI will be 30, and in terms of attraction of the other sex, it matters.
I wouldn't worry too much about bulking up too much. You can always come back from that. Jesus, man.
I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
No, he won't speak to you because of Meghan Markle, dude.
But it would be nice to reconcile. As I learned through the First Nations throughout Canada, because of the Invictus Games, their goal in life was always truth and reconciliation. And I turned around to them in many conversations and I said, right, but reconciliation can't come without truth.
Yeah, and here's the truth. Meghan Markle is the problem, nothing else.
Well, I've now found out the truth. I've shared some of it with you today. A lot of it exists out there, whether people choose to ignore it or not.
The Cuck of Sussex.
So it would be nice to have that reconciliation part now.
I'm sure it would be.
If they don't want that, that's entirely up to them.
No, it's actually entirely up to you. All you got to do is Hold on a second.
Dump that bitch.
There, that's all you have to do.
Fancy him, and it was as simple as that. Yeah, I mean, I think also we both come from families that work really hard. Both of our parents work really hard. We're very working class.
Be honest.
I am being honest. I am being
honest. What car did your dad drive you to school in?
So my dad did.
No, one answer.
My dad.
What car was it?
All right, it's not a simple answer
what
because.
What did you get your dad to drive?
It depends.
No.
Okay,
What
in the
car?
80s, my dad had a Rolls Royce.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, that is accountability. That's how you do it.
Analysis of 96 studies testing 6 dimensions of masculinity found that strength and muscularity was the strongest and most consistent predictor of a man's mating success. Better than a deep voice, better than testosterone, even better than height. Bit surprising, I know, and while numbers can lie, in this case, I don't think numbers are lying. Now, part of this is probably just the likely personality that gets jacked. The men who do the things you need to do to get strong and muscular are probably more ambitious romantically, on average. A large
no, your personality could be shit. If you look good, you're still gonna pull pussy, dude.
part of this seems to be scaring off rivals. There's some research indicating that formidability in the eyes of men is more important to your romantic success than attractiveness to women. Jack dudes might just not have to compete for the women they want because other men are just too scared to test their temper. But to be
no, they get what they want because the women are there and they want them. This is not rocket science.
clear, some of this association is attractiveness. Men might want to be more muscular than women want them to be, but women typically still prefer men who are more muscular than average. So given that muscles are scientifically sexy, what is up with the dad bod phenomenon? When choosing a mate, women are looking for men who are able to produce robust offspring and protect them, but they're also looking for a man who will nurture and invest in her and her offspring. And some hypothesize that more muscular men are less likely to be good at this nurturing role on average. Perhaps they're more likely to be the aggressive type and or less likely to be the committed type. And
there it is. The less likely to be the committed type, meaning that he's not going to stick around. He's going to ejaculate and evacuate. Thank you for once again highlighting a red pill topic.
Indeed, that is women's perception of them. There's been direct research on dad bods, and sure enough, women perceive men who are plumper and less muscular to be better dad candidates. And so even if
because they can't get away. We're going to talk about the extra scoop of rice today.
In the broadest sense, athletic men are more attractive to women. It's perfectly sensible that some women, especially in some contexts, will find a dad bod, a soft physique, most appealing.
Yeah, not most appealing.
Basically, what you're saying is 95% of the population is undateable?
Undateable!
Then how are all these people getting together?
Alcohol.
I had to throw that one in at the end. That was too good. Look, it's my Star Wars shirt. This is the only Star Wars shirt that I own. Wait, let me pull it out. Anybody get the joke? Somebody has to get the joke, right? Yes. Come on, somebody knows this joke. When I wear this to the gym, people are like, you know Han Solo? I'm like, no, it's the only red pill, like, it's the one red pill moment in all of any Star Wars movie, in any sequel, in any spinoff, in anything. It's the one red pill moment in Empire Strikes Back. Yes, there we go. You guys should know. We're going to geek out. Should we geek out about Star Wars right now? So, I don't know. Okay, so May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. God damn it, Star Wars nerds. I can sympathize. I really can sympathize, but it's like, come on, man. You know, there is an Aliens Day. You know what the Aliens Day is?
Nope.
It's April 20th. Or no, April 26th. Sorry. You know why?
What?
Because the planet that they find the original alien on is LV-426. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so maybe you nerds got me. I don't know. Yeah, this is the only one I got. It's funny because like I posted last year on May the 4th. I posted Instagram picture, still up on my Instagram actually, of me in this shirt. And I go, this is the only shirt. This is the only Star Wars like paraphernalia I own, you know. And I only got it because of the line, right? And yeah, it was. It's funny because people just don't get the joke unless you have actually seen the movie and you understand what it was about. But like, it was when they were about to freeze Han in carbonite, right? And then Leia says, "I love you," and he says, just like a fucking pimp. He's like, "I know." Now she got him back, I guess, in Return of the Jedi, but just right then, he just like a pimp, man. I was like, "Holy shit, this is great." But anyways, I didn't, it's funny, like when I watched that movie, I was probably like 13 or 14 when it was in the theaters. And I didn't realize, I just thought it was a good line, right? But like, I didn't realize how significant it was until I got to be an adult. Yeah. That was funny. Yeah. Star Wars. Yeah, I know. I don't play any Star Wars, role-playing games. I don't play any, except for, way back in the day, we played Knights of the Old Republic. That was a good game. We were just talking about like what they should do. Kathleen Kennedy just basically, gang raped the entire franchise. So I think that's pretty much an established fact at this point. But I've been watching Andor. I thought Andor's not too bad. I know a lot of people kind of have like sort of mixed feelings about Andor, but at least it's an adult, series. There's like intrigue and stuff, and I know most of the characters because I'm a dork this way. I watched all the Clone Wars, so I know who Mon Mothma is and all the stuff that comes along with that. And I like Star Wars. I'll watch Star Wars, but there's very few ones that I haven't watched. Like I didn't watch that stupid one with the space lesbians in it. That was the last one. Or I didn't watch the Ahsoka one, which was a damn shame because I think Ahsoka's a really great character. They just turned her into like a girl power and it sucks. So, and then the sequels all suck. They're very unmemorable. I couldn't even tell you what the plot was in any of these things. I know that, they turned Rey into a Mary Sue, which is a pretty much a given fact. Like one of the things I've talked about this before, when we're talking about like gender swapping certain characters, especially like Rey, they wanted a strong, powerful, female character. They wanted basically a female Luke Skywalker for this, and the Force is female. Hell, they're making up T-shirts that say the Force is female. So at that point, the fix is in. And it was about 2 years back. I was on Kevin Savo's podcast, the Savo podcast, and we're talking about how people are losing the ability to write characters that are like traditionally conventionally masculine. So like finding a Han Solo or writing a Han Solo or a Captain Kirk or even an Indiana Jones, kind of these happy-go-lucky kind of, action adventure kind of guys. It's next to impossible. And it's been so ratioed for so long now that I think that we have now a new generation of space scissoring. Thank you. God damn, now you're going to throw me off. We have a generation, I think, of even the good writers who simply don't know how to write those characters anymore. Maybe Taylor Sheridan does. Maybe, I got some hope for Taylor Sheridan. John Wick, yeah, I don't know. But just being having the balls to even write a action hero who is male is a act of defiance at this point. Yeah. And so when I was having this conversation with actually I think it was Kevin Savo and the Savo brothers this one time. We were talking about how they don't know how to write a female character in that male role. And I said, well, it's because men must become and women just are. And that's why you get Mary Sue characters, because female writers don't know how to write the hero's journey because it's inherently a conventionally masculine story, right? It's a masculine way of approaching a story. And if you don't know what the hero's journey is, it's all about myth and everything. Pretty much like the original Star Wars with Luke and everything. That's a hero's journey, right? So he has to learn, he has to train, he has to have his ass kicked. He has to have a wise, wizard to help him learn how to wield a lightsaber, right? He doesn't know anything like that. He's just this farm boy from, a desert, Tatooine, from a desert planet, right? And so it's the story of transformation. And so when you put Rey in the role of the protagonist or people go, well, how does she learn how to just magically know how to use a lightsaber, right? How does she all this? Well, it's because women, when they write that character, they think that character should already know how to do that, right? Because women just are and men must become. Men have a burden of performance. Well, to become something, to become respectable, to follow that hero's journey, to be more than you were when you were 13 and now you're 23 and now you're 33 and you're basically leveling up and everything like that. That's a kind of a foreign concept for women. So when you look at Rich Cooper says, women don't care about men's struggles. They wait at the finish line and they fuck the winners, right? So women just think men come out as winners. They don't want to hear about like how you had to learn to use a lightsaber. I mean, to be a winner, to be a Jedi master, you have to go through a lot of training, right? You have to go and do all that. I mean, granted, it's fictional. I'm nerding out on you here, but the principle is the same. So they don't care about the struggles. They don't care that you lost a fucking arm, you lost a hand to your dad. That they don't care about that. They just care that you're a Jedi master. And you know what? If guys can do it, then women can do it too. So let's just throw a lightsaber at Rey, and then we'll just pretend she can use it. That's how you get a Mary Sue character. Because you're right, you're essentially writing a male character as a female, and female and your male allies, don't know how to write that character anymore. God forbid they would. I mean, they got to find some way to like sort of go along with the theme of the franchise. But when they say, well, we got to put a strong, independent woman on there, she's got to know how to kick ass from the word go. The reason why that doesn't work for a female character is because women just are. And so they think that, well, men just are, because that's how all women see men. You're already made. Because if you're not already made, if you're still in the struggles, that makes you a Jedi master, and you're not quite a Jedi master yet. The idea is that all these guys are Jedi masters already, so we can just do it too, right? You're invisible when you're Luke Skywalker. You're invisible when you're learning, when you're on your come up. So once you get to the point where you have achieved something and you have some sort of accolades, or you're a Jedi master, you know how to do this skill, they don't care about what the struggles were. You were invisible during the struggle part, and now you are a Jedi master. And so this is why you get a Mary Sue character, because they don't know what it takes to become. So when you have, as I said, this is a red pill principle from the jump, right? Men must become. Women just are. So like when I was just doing the, and by the way, I know there's going to be some questions about the Zoom call yesterday, which was fantastic. Thanks, Kyle, for producing that. It is recorded. You guys can get a hold of it. But one of the things I was talking about was the burden of performance. And men have a burden of performance. That's why we build societies, and that's why we think of each other in terms of hierarchy and respectability. Because we understand the struggle. We understand what it takes to go from being a white belt to being a black belt, right? There's a progression of belts that you have to go through. You have to spar, you have to get your ass kicked and get your jaw broke, right? And you have to come back and you have to dust yourself off and go back at it again. That's how you become a Jedi master, right? So it's a much larger, sort of more universal principle for guys when we're on our come up. And I was explaining the difference between how women's concept of respect is completely different from men's concept of respect. And if you look in the dictionary, there are two definitions of respect. There's what I call the masculine version, which is the merited version, like what makes you respectable? What have you done that has earned other people's respect? What makes you respectable? What makes you at a certain rank? How do you get to go from being the private to being the sergeant, to being the lieutenant, to being the general or the whatever? How do you go up the chain of command, right? Well, there's a certain progression that has to go along with that, and that's part of the male struggle, and that's becoming a man, becoming the general eventually, right? So that's like, even if you don't respect the man, you still respect the office and you respect the uniform, right? There's nothing like that when it comes to women, because women end up looking at or organizing societies or making organizations based around commonality, based around communitarianism. And this really kind of goes back to our hunter-gatherer roots, right? Men were the hunters, women were the berry pickers, right? They were the gatherers. They're the vulnerable sex. They have their strength in numbers. That's why women have to sort of, like, sisterhood uber alles, right? That's a vestige of how women used to have to sort of band together for mutual security. Well, especially while the men were off, hunting woolly mammoths and caribou and whatever else, right? And of course, men would end up being, ranking each other as his physical prowess, ability, certainly skill, certainly cleverness too. There's a lot to go along with that, but your respectability was part of what your rank was, part of what your station was, your status, anyways. And the reason I'm bringing this up is I keep reading all these things from Rob Henderson talking about like elites and experts and status this and status that and everything. I'm like, well, it's because we used to live in a patriarchy. Status used to be something a whole lot different now. We shit all over status, but we shouldn't be. I don't think so, because it represents a hierarchy of respectability, at least in an idealized state. I mean, it's too easy to like mimic the cues of status these days, obviously. But I mean, in its purest form and in its ideal form, hierarchy is not inherently a bad thing. I mean, we developed Western society based on male hierarchies, right? And so now we have these guys guys too, but we have, sort of feminine mindset, feminine thinking guys, and a whole world of, gynocentric women who think the best way to organize society is to do it in the round, right? To do egalitarianism is a great idea for women because it locks in with it takes a village to raise a child, right? It locks in with that communitarian psyche that women have. And as such, we kind of like shit all over hierarchy and you got to smash the patriarchy, right? Well, the hierarchy that allows you to say smash the patriarchy is necessary for you to even consider, organizing people in the round. So anyways, I digress. All of that for Star Wars, by the way. But I thought it was, I've always thought it was interesting when I'm like sort of detailing characters from like Marvel or Star Wars, or I mean, even Warhammer 40,000 in some ways. Why are things the way they are? Oh, this is a good one. Hold on, I'll just jump these real quick. Siege D, thanks. Hey Rolo, how did the webinar go? Well, it went fantastic. You guys can find out. We recorded it. We're going to make it the webinar available for free. Bummer I couldn't make it. Regarding my friend who's divorced with 2 young daughters, should I give him the Rational books 1 and 3? Or show him that Raising Daughters video that you did with Rich Cooper? I would start out by giving him books 1 and 3, simply because I have a whole dedicated chapter to Raising Daughters in book 3, Positive Masculinity. But you always want to start with number 1, because that's sort of like the base rule set, I guess. Excuse me. Did you see Michaela Peterson says she likes red pill men now? Oh, of course she did. Because they're aware. Like the Tates. I wonder if that's due to Tate's dick's impact on impact. Yes, an impact driver. No, I think that she's probably like, you got to remember that the Petersons they're bandwagoners. They're carpetbaggers. They like whatever the new hotness is. If tomorrow somebody was shitting all over the red pill, and it was not in vogue, for what, because honestly, right now, people want to conflate the red pill with sort of like conservative politics right now, which of course is, that's what Peterson's licensed to Daily Wire, right? I think they're trying to recover. Well, you got to know that Michaela Peterson runs her dad's Twitter, so take everything with a grain of salt. But I think when he was on there and was talking, he was on with Pierce Morgan. And he had mentioned something about how like we have all these, anti-Jewish, influence right now. We got these Nazis and these fascists and stuff like that. And essentially taking sides, like, he might as well have said like Nick Fuentes is a autistic punk, right? He might as well have said something like that, because I'm sure he got all these bots from coming after him right after that. But like I mentioned this on the last show, I was like, all you got to do is actually just come out against, Israel, or be pro-Israel or something like that. And now everybody who loved Jordan Peterson, and you guys gave me so much shit whenever I was critical of Jordan Peterson for like, being an idiot, right? or speaking baffle garble, or essentially just like sort of just rambling on and filibustering until the time was up, right? Everybody who gives me shit, everybody who gave me shit about Michaela Peterson, now suddenly they're anti-Peterson now. I'm like, all it took was him saying he's pro-Israel. What am I doing here? What do you got? Let's see. Do you think Blade Runner 2049 tried to show women what men go through, but they missed the message? You know what? Blade Runner was never like the first Blade Runner was good. I think 2049 sort of like wanted to be what the original was, and it just utterly failed at it. It was hard to get back into that, like the 2049 one. It was hard to get into that because you got to remember that the first one came out in what, like 1980, 1979, something like that. And then now the sequels in 2023, I think, somewhere, or 2021. It was hard to sort of catch up with that because Blade Runner as a franchise doesn't have any like comic books. It doesn't have any like, fan fiction or anything like that, or none that I'm aware of anyways. How does one grow psychologically? Well, you're going to do it no matter what. You're doing it right now. You're growing psychologically by asking the question psychologically. I think that's probably not the right question. Psychology is the study of your psyche. So really what you're saying is, how do I grow my psyche? How do I develop myself? How do I develop mindset? How do I develop this? Like what would be, I think probably the better question is, what would be considered growth, right? Is it maturation? Is it becoming more intelligent? Is it becoming wiser? Is it becoming a better judge of character? I would need to know what the parameters are for what, like, this is a very ambiguous question. Like what's the goal, Let's see. Rolo, you look jacked. Well, thank you. Can you give us a brief TRT update? Yeah. Oh, this is. I don't really think I'm all jacked. I thought I was more jacked in summertime, man. I'm getting a little bit. Hold that thought. When we get to like July of this year, then let's do the comparison. I got pellets right around when you did, but I'm about to cycle off for a few months. Okay. Before getting back on, I ended up getting bigger than you wanted. What? How big did you want to get? That's usually not a problem. That's funny because, like, I mean, I've seen so many fitness like influencers, and they always, the running joke is like, women don't want, I don't want to look too masculine. I'm like, baby, don't worry about it. Just you get your fat ass in it. There's a treadmill, run till you're thin.
I work out to get toned.
Yeah, I get toned.
These are toning
And
exercises.
it's like those little file of water weights. It's like they got rid of in like the 80s with them big old knee socks or those leg warmers. They went away with those. TRT, they upped my dose. Actually, I'm doing 170 a week of cypionate right now. I have used peptides in the past. I'll just leave it at that. But as far as my TRT is concerned, they just upped my dose a little bit. Let's see what else. You guys already know I work out with Hide Yamagishi and Alvaro Pena. You guys probably saw Alvaro on the Access Vegas, which, by the way, update, Alvaro and Bex are a thing now. I did not have it. I had no expectation. I did not think that was going to happen. But yeah, that was Crystal Bex. Crystal Bex is an interesting character. I like her. I only knew her from that show, and then since then, I've kind of been talking with her back and forth. And Alvaro is a very happy boy. So, anyways, let's see. Last one here. In Bulgaria, a 17-year-old boy ended an 18-year-old girl. People are in an uproar. Rumor mill says he was listening to toxic podcast. Words like high value woman and high value man were used. They are coming. Yes. Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that you're going to probably see more attribution. Yes, thank you, Siege. Yes, you're correct. You're going to see more attribution, false attribution to the manosphere very soon. I keep seeing trying to think who it was on Fox News just recently was using the term manosphere, and they're not using it in a complimentary capacity, I should say. I'm also very aware, and you can stop sending me the tweets, but I'm very aware of the new legislation that's going on in Scotland right now, which is sort of like the anti-misogyny laws. And I would presume this is a result, another great result. I hope you're happy, Will Costello, from movies like Adolescence or series like Adolescence, which are now being confused and maybe deliberately conflated with documentaries. And I was just looking at I forget who the interviewer was, but there was a morning show or something, I guess, in the UK where they brought in I don't know if it was a prime minister or somebody who was in the cabinet. Not really. I don't know how the UK's government works, but she was just basically saying, I haven't watched the series. I don't have any plans to watch it yet. I'm more concerned with solving these problems. And she started rattling off these problems, and all the morning crew wanted to talk about was, well, you've got to watch this. This is, it's just this paranoia. It was this hysteria. It was like the satanic panic in the 80s for over Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I'm watching this unfold live in real time, and they're calling it a documentary. I'm like, no, it's a work of fiction. It is not a documentary. It is not a true story. And if you go and you look on Perplexity and you try to find any relation to any of any killings of little girls or whatever the series is depicting, right, you will find that there is no stories. There are no incidents of anything remotely like that happening. You want to know why I lay into Will Costello so much? That's why. Like, whether he did it intentionally or whether it was, unintentional, though, the fact remains, the bullshit studies and the bullshit research that Will Costello decided that he wanted to do was enough to get him a doctorate, I guess, but it's all, funded by the government. And when you get in bed with these people, this is what happens. Well, our findings said that it was completely the opposite. Then why are you not screaming from the highest fucking rooftop that that's the case? You're not, because you want your flowers. You want your flowers right now. And now the party's over, but we're still going to deal with the fallout. We're still going to deal with the consequences. And one of those consequences is now we have anti-misogyny laws that are going into place or being voted on, at least as far as I know, in Scotland right now. And what that entails, I don't know. So we'll see. Well, I understand. I saw this coming. I made a joke about this one time. I said we're gonna get to the point where reading my book, The Rational Male, reading my books by candlelight in some like cave with a group of guys, like, Christians reading the Bible in red china, Mao's China, I was joking about it. Now I'm not so sure that's a joke anymore. Yeah, go get your books now, please. It's the first link in the description right there. The very first link. You can't miss it. You don't even have to go below the fold. Just click on it, please. Get your hard copies today. Pass them on to your kids. Because, I don't know. Thank God, Amazon is still cool enough to publish books like mine and publish books like, other authors as well. Ryan Stone, for example. But yeah. So today I kind of wanted to I got a few things I want to hit on. I got a video I want to riff on a little bit here too. But I want to draw a highlight, I guess, or put a spotlight on what I've been seeing a lot happening, like, I guess, online and on social media lately. And it's this idea that there needs to be some sort of pushback on the red pill, right? And so, I mean, you guys already know that like I live rent free in Will Costello's head. So I don't like, I left the dude alone, man. I haven't said jack shit. I'm like, the guy like snipes at me from behind a block anyways, which is just some major pussy ass bitch shit. So I'm like, well, okay, whatever. It's like every now and then when he wants some affirmation or he wants some attention, then he'll throw some, he'll throw something at me, right? And the only way I know now is if somebody, copy and pastes it to me, because I don't get his tweets and I don't care to get his tweets anymore. I said what I said. I backed it up. He didn't have anything to say about it, and life goes on, right? Well, every now and then when he needs a little bit of affirmation and wants to, pretend like he's actually doing something significant in the world, he'll throw something at me, and then I, to my credit, I let it slide off of me. I had a conversation with Mike Sartain. He's like, why do you get involved in all this shit? Because like it seems like it's very petty bullshit, and in a way it kind of is. But it is up until the point where we get demonetized. It is until it gets to the point where we get ratioed. It is until we're a misogynist podcast, right? It is until we get the fallout, and that's why I make a big deal out of this kind of stuff. But I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just back up off of it. I'm not the one throwing the punch. It's these guys that are throwing the punch right now. I'm just defending myself at this point. But I thought, you know what? I'll just leave this one alone. And thank you very much. I'm glad I did, because I have so many supporters that come in and just like read him the riot act, and they'll defend me. And it's great to be at a point where it's like I don't have to do much of anything, because I have so many supporters that will jump in and defend me, and pretty well, at least as well as I would have. So in some ways, that's having a third party defend you is pretty meaningful, I think. But anyways, so I'm reading through this stuff, and I'll tell you what's interesting to me is it's usually these sort of ambiguous attacks, like the Evo Psych community ridicules that role guy, or the Evo Psych community doesn't take him seriously, or anything. I'm like, and did they ever? I've got a degree in fine art, and I have a bachelor's degree in behavioral psychology. Yes, I did actually go to college. I did actually earn those degrees. Thank you very much. I saw somebody saying he doesn't really have a degree. His real name is George. I'm like, oh my gosh, George. And I'm like, and I have 5 best-selling books over the course of 24 years, 25, 23 years right now. And you've had at least the last 12 years to read the first book. So like, what do you have a problem with? Like, be specific at least. You say, well, they have a problem with him and blah, blah, blah. And nobody takes him seriously as a serious scientist. Or I'll get like Date Psych or Alex from Date Psych. I'll be like, none of these red pill guys actually do any research of their own. I'm like, yeah, because we're not academics. We take what the data sets that we get, and we extrapolate, or we interpret them, and we interpret them in ways that would never occur to you. And so, like, I remember it was a really great quote by Nick Krauser, and it still sticks with me to this day. I think I might have even put it in the player's handbook too. Is that the past? Well, this is a while back. But he said the past 15 years of the seduction community has done more to advance the understanding of human nature, women's nature, and men's nature too, of women's nature, than the past 150 years of psychology or sociology has done, because the pickup artists could go out and do the things in the field that experimental researchers could never do. They're relying on like self-reporting. They're relying on on surveys that they pay their incels to take, right? But I'm one guy amongst many who came before me, right? I still to this day give flowers and give credit towards to Tom Likas. Tom Likas was proto red pill. Okay. Patrice O'Neill, right? He was a comedian, but he was onto something for sure. Okay. Mystery Method. There was a lot of the guys in the old school seduction communities. Nick Krauser was fantastic. He had a great mind. And then there's the guys that are sort of my contemporaries as well. So there was Royce, there was Roosh, and there's Rolo. We were the 3 R's of the manosphere. During the blog years, we had the most trafficked blogs in this niche, right? And so not for nothing, but we've been doing this for quite some time. And so what gets me is like when people want to say, well, these guys don't do their research. They don't know anything about. I'm like, dude, we've been doing it for 20 some odd, well, in my case, 22 years, 23 years. And like, well, they'll throw out some ambiguous, critiques or criticisms. And I've never said anything like that. They're just presuming that that's something I might have said or I would have said. I'm like, no, that's something Andrew Tate would have said. That's something Pearl Davis would have completely butchered. That's something, I don't even know who else to talk about, right? Like I had this one guy. I was in I'll read you the tweet here in a minute, but I was in this one tweet thread and I had this guy say something like, "Oh, you sound like an Andrew Tate follower." And I'm like, no, Andrew Tate is a Rollo Tomasi follower. And that's the God's honest truth. Okay. I came way before he did. I've known Andrew way before any of these other guys, way before Myron, way before Mike, way before any of these other guys. I was doing interviews with him way before Justin Waller came around. I was doing interviews before anybody even knew who he was. He was just a former kickboxing guy, right? Who happened to be on a reality TV show, right? And he was sort of coming up in the circles when I was doing the 21 convention at that time. And hell, even the guys in the 21 convention have a longer history with Tate than anybody else, anybody current right now. So when I hear that kind of stuff, I'm like, when people throw that out there, it's like, and of course, the UK wants to take Andrew and put him in jail, right? Or they use his name is synonymous with misogyny and the red pill and manosphere. Even he can denounce it, which he has so many times. Or they'll say what Jordan Peterson is red pill. I'm like, Jordan Peterson is most definitely. Jordan Peterson would give me the fucking time of day, right? Jordan Peterson would most definitely tell me to go to hell if I saw him at one of his speaking engagements. Yeah, so don't conflate Jordan Peterson with the red pill. He is absolutely not red pill, and never has been. So when I'm confronted with somebody saying, well, Andrew Tate this, Andrew Tate that, I'm like, okay. Can you name anybody else? Can you name anybody? Andrew Tate, Manosphere. Okay, who? Anybody else? Can you name anyone else in the Manosphere? If they can't, that means that their experience with the quote unquote Manosphere is limited to whatever they've heard their favorite influencer, their favorite pundit say. You have no experience in it. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And I'll be happy to, as tactfully and as diplomatically as I can, I'll be happy to correct you. But the fact of the matter is the reason why most of these guys have some hard on for the red pill or the manosphere is because they heard something Andrew Tate said way back in the day, like women should be men's property. Oh, the red pill says that women should be men's property. It's like, can we have a discussion about that? Can I go on your show? Would you like me to come on your show and discuss this? No, fuck you. Right? Like trigonometry. Trigonometry just had this it's this feminist on with the big old bottle of Coke bottle glasses and everything like that. Are like, well, you couldn't find one with fuchsia hair too. I mean, if you're gonna go that far, go all the way, guys. But it's just grist for the mill, man. It's just red meat for that audience. They know it's trending. They know it's hot. So hey, let's get this frothing at the mouth feminist that looks like all the feminists that all these guys hate, and let's see how we can get it to go. Right? And nothing substantial comes out of that. I don't know how. I've got so many guys that end up in the comments of trigonometry and what Christine Kanopoulos or whatever the fuck the guy's name is. My guys will be like, bring on Rollo and Myron on the show. It'll never happen, but I'm glad you guys have so much faith in us. Thank you for doing that. But it's frustrating sometimes, like especially like you got like Chris Williamson, you got like Tim Pool, who I've been on his show before, wants to shit talk the manosphere now. And it's like, dude, you could call me. I could text him right now. Like, dude, just bring me on. I'll be happy to talk to you. I'll fly me out, right? Put me up at Travelodge again. I don't care. I'll suffer through Travelodge. Let's go do it. It's like the guys who want to have like these like in-depth kind of like substantive conversations about it last year, it was last year, last March was when I was on Tim. And now here we are a year later, and we're going to shit all over the manosphere. He knows better. He's talked to Myron. God knows how many times. He's talked to Myron more than he has me. Like, have me and Myron on there. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, that would be fucking awesome. Like, you would have a kick-ass show, Tim, if you had the both of us on there, because we would be talking some real ass shit. And I don't think there's anybody you could bring on the opposite side who could like sort of like be a counterbalance to us. I don't think there's anybody you could bring on who would be able to go toe to toe with us. And that's why Pierce Morgan doesn't bring me on. It doesn't bring on certainly doesn't bring us on together. I mean, imagine like putting myself, Andrew Wilson, and Myron on the same show together. Holy shit. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything. And that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, you're still going to have some points of contention between even us, you know, but yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like people just, I don't understand. Like some point, like Mike Sartain told me this one time, he said, we just keep doing what we're doing, man. We just keep doing it. We keep writing you keep writing books. We keep doing shows. We keep doing Access Vegas. We keep hitting it and keep hitting it and hitting it. And at some point along the way, it's going to seem weird that we haven't been on those shows. It's going to look strange that we haven't been on, you know, Chris Williamson's show or whatever. You know, I would love to get me and Mike on Tim Pool. That'd be awesome. But it's going to get to the point where it's going to seem sus that we haven't been on. Oh, isn't that what the kids are saying? Suspicious that we haven't been on those shows yet. So all I can do is just hammer on and do this show and do the best job I can for you guys and do the best job I can in the next book and everything else that I'm doing, because I'm still got irons in the fire and I'm still going to keep going. So it doesn't, you know, makes no difference to me. Matt Machiavelli, nice way to spell that. A buddy has been seeing a girl for 2 months now. He's 34. She's 24. Well done. Bravo. Hot blonde. She's in his frame, but having some issues with the details. What would those details be? Turns out she might be pregnant. Thoughts? Might be. Wait, hold on.
God wants you to have the baby.
Definitely
not. Find out for sure. Thoughts? First of all, I would make sure that she is actually like might be pregnant. Like, do you have the pregnancy test? Is it like one little pink strip, or is it two, or what is it? Right? What did she do? She calls up. She says, "I might be pregnant." It's like, are you halfway pregnant? Like, you are or you aren't? Like, can you explain that to me? That's a kind of a binary thing, right? Having issues with the details. The details, like she might be pregnant. And she's okay. So I would need more information on your friend to make an accurate assessment here. If he's 34 and she's 24, I don't know. Does he make a lot of money? Is he, when women, like when there's a pregnancy scare, it's usually like we can use Fresh as a perfect example for this. If there's a pregnancy scare, it's usually because that guy looks like he's going to be a good long-term bet. So that's that's actually one of the iron rules of Tomasi, which is always control the birth, right? That's why it's called birth control, right? And there's only really one way to do that as a guy, and that's to wear a condom, right? Or get a vasectomy. What did he say? He said vasectomy again. Get a vasectomy or wrap the rascal. Those are your two choices, because once the sperm leaves your body, you are effectively powerless. So you have to take those matters. And I remember what's funny is like I when I first wrote that, I put that out. Remember, all of the Iron Rules of Tomasi first appeared or premiered on the old So Suave forums, and so we got to talk about each one of those. Right? It was great. It was like an assessment by my peers. It was peer reviews, and one of the things that a lot of guys said was, well, if you're in a committed relationship with a woman, it's a trust issue. You should trust her to take the pill and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Because my stance then as now was that the only way you can control the birth is by those two methods. And I think that I've been asked this before, but I think that the very fact that we had hormonal birth control introduced, real popularized, become mainstream, let's just say by 1965. In 1965, we had hormonal birth control. Now we have other ones. We have Norplant. There's different types of hormonal birth control now, which I think is funny because a lot of people want to say, well, hormonal birth control ruins a woman's body and her biology and her, you shouldn't give it to 14-year-old girls and da-da-da. Everybody, because it's usually like moralistic women, of course, saying, oh, it messes up your psychological, choosing mechanisms. You choose the wrong guy because you're on the pill and everything. That's a whole nother, can of worms right there. But long story short is like, we've had that technology since at least 65, let's just say. All right, let's round it off. In that time, we don't have anything that's comparable for men. By my watch, that's a long fucking time. We can put how many landers on fucking Mars and get 4K streaming video back from Mars. Now, what about male birth control? Oh God, it's just still a mystery. We just can't figure it out. No, the fact is they don't want to figure it out. Because there has never been a more disruptive technology than hormonal birth control that that essentially placed the human reproductive process in the hands of one sex. So everything that you when I hear these guys, or women primarily too, want to say that men we need more masculinity. It's Allie Beth Stuckey. Hey, shout out to you. Here we go again. Oh, she's been saying this since 2015 to Turd Flinging Monkey, right? We don't need less masculinity. We need more, right? More of the kind that works for women. And but the funny thing is there's still this old school patriarchal expectations of masculine duty and honor and you need to take responsibility. And as we know, responsibility, authority, I've gone through that a million times. But they still don't get it. I know Allie Beth Stuckey has heard responsibility without authority is slavery. I know for a fact you have heard this from me or God knows how many other people, right? But we're still harping on responsibility. Men need to be leaders. Okay, that means you have to be a subordinate. See how that works? Men need to lead in the house. Okay, who's the subordinate in the house? No, it's got to be equal, 50-50. But he's got to lead. All right, so what you're really looking at is the 20th century. He's got to lead. With the 21st century, which is we're a 50-50 partnership in an egalitarian marriage. You don't get it both ways, and that's really what a lot of guys are. Even you don't have to be religious to see the writing on the wall, right? But the fact that we're still harping on that kind of stuff is we're trying to solve 21st century problems with 20th century solutions. And one of those 20th century sort of problems that has eked over into the 21st century is the technology of hormonal birth control. And so whenever I bring this up, people, they either don't want to talk about it or they want to divert it over to, oh yeah, hormonal birth control really fucks up women. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the societal effects that have been downstream ever since 1965 in the sexual revolution, and Title IX, and a fertility rate being below replacement since the mid 70s, and this and this and this and this and this and this. Well, hormonal birth control really fucks up. I feel that Jackie Chan meme where he's like this. That's me, man. Yeah. I'm still hoping on a Rolo and TFM collab. I would do it. I haven't heard from TFM in a long time. I would definitely do it. I do like TFM. I've never not liked him. I think I don't necessarily agree with all of his best practices, but I think his diagnoses are always spot on. He's very, people want to say he's black pill or whatever. He's very red pill. His practices are black pill, but his understanding and his diagnoses are very, very red pill. And I have nothing but respect for TFM. Turd Flinging Monkey, in case you wonder. They figured out birth control for men, convinced them that they are girls in the prepubescent years. Yay, feminism. Yeah, it's cut their dicks off. There you go. That'll solve it. Yeah, where did it go? Let's see if I can find this for you guys. I had a really fun time with this thread. I don't know if people like me harping on Twitter threads, but man, I'll tell you that I get more inspiration for like show topics off of my Twitter feed than anything else. Oh God, we have what's her name? What the fuck is this chick's name? I forget her name now. Claire Lehman. Who I like quite a bit, but like she's like the chick who started Quillette, which used to be a really good blog, but now it's kind of like it's kind of fallen off a little bit. She's talking about, she has this one little video that she's been talking about adolescence, and she's been talking about the radicalization of incels and stuff like that. But we can't talk about those incels. We can't talk about men, because we need to talk about more of the growing radicalization of young women. Incels dangerous, women most affected. It's like you can't even let them own the bad shit. But that's not what I wanted to look at. Where did it go? That one either. Oh, it was a reply. Sorry, that's why I'm not finding it. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. I see Jedediah Bila is hitting it hard these days. That's good. She's doing well. She's going to have I know she had Andrew Wilson on recently. I don't know when that's coming out, if it has already. And then I know she's got Mike Sartain scheduled, so I'm looking forward to all of those. I might have had something to do with Mike getting scheduled. Let's see. Yeah. Didn't anybody like Access Vegas last week? Wasn't that fun? Anybody keeping up on the Ethan Klein thing with that debate? Oh my God! Everybody says he's on drugs, like he's on meth. I go, no, that's not meth. That's Vyvanse. Is what that is. Oh man. Okay, here it is. I got you now. Here it is. This was Ada Lulch. Can't even remember this chick's name. Here we go. I'll just share the screen. I don't know who Ada Lulch is. Apparently, she's somewhat of a big deal. There it is. So this is, how many followers does she have? 311. She got more than I do, by half. She's not too bad. Fresh follows her. Who else follows her? Red Pill guys follow her. There's a bunch of guys that I know follow her. Okay, so anyways, this ended up in my feed, and so I figured I'd just I'd riff on this just for a second here, because it's kind of along the lines of the topic I wanted to talk about here. She says, I'm convinced the lack of masculine men is why our society is falling apart. It's important to remember what manhood is. Oh, please, Ada, tell us what manhood is. We need strong men who will one day become strong fathers and create strong families that will raise great people who will make our society better. Okay. The woke mind virus has been working hard to destroy this, though. Think about this. Think about it. There's no easier target than effeminate, fat, docile, brainwashed, and weak men. That's how the bad actors want us to be. Also, as a woman, okay, usually whenever I hear that, as a woman, I stop reading right there. Okay, because what that means is I'm going to speak for all women. Let me tell you one thing. I'm not sure she writes her own shit. This sounds very copywritten to me. There is nothing sexier than a man being an actual man. Could you be a little more vague about it? Can you be more ambiguous about this, please? Acting like a man, smelling like a man. You mean like after he comes in from chopping wood? Fixing problems like a man, thinking like a man. So you don't think like a man. If we made masculinity great again, we wouldn't only fix the fundamental problems we face today, but the birth rate would no longer be in decline. No, Ada, it would require you to fuck an actual man. That's what it would take, you know? So anyways, I responded with this, and actually this was a pretty decent response for me because it was up to 29,000 views. So I said this. I said, if you want masculine men to, this is straight out of the turd flinging monkey playbook. I admit, okay. If you want masculine men to solve problems engendered by 4 generations of feminism, the price is giving up your rights. You cannot petition men to be responsible for solving problems without ceding them the authority to affect those responsibilities. I made this in as succinct as I possibly could. I made this as idiot proof as I possibly could. I didn't even use 280 characters, right? As best I can. And I will tell you, and of course, there's no response from Ada. There's a lot of other women lost their shit, right? Like this one chick here, she says, men are designed to lead. Okay. Whoever this broad is right here, are designed to lead. Designed. Oh, okay. Women are naturally receptive. I'm not a feminist. Okay, stop reading there. But I completely understand why it arose, and clearly it went out of control. We need men, real men. Okay, what's a real man? A man who does what I want him to do. Women were taken advantage of and treated like second-class citizens. No, they weren't. They were just trying to get along like anybody else, okay? Placing them beneath men. No, they were only beneath men because they had to be beneath men because men were responsible for them. They were responsible for their kids, and they were responsible for the well-being of their women folk too. So if there's going to be a leader in the family, that means there are subordinates. There are people below the leadership. See, this is what gets me is whenever we're talking about like men need to lead in the family, men need to lead in the church, men need to be leaders. You have to allow your man to lead. There's nothing more fucking like self-righteous, self-evincing bullshit than, oh, we're going to allow you to lead. You know what that implies? You have the authority. That's what that implies. That you're the one that's actually he can lead. Let's just give him here's just a little bit of leadership. Don't, not too much. Whoa, dial that back a little bit, you know. We only need you to have enough leadership to take responsibility when there's a break-in, a home invasion. The time to lead, honey. The floodwaters are rising now in Mississippi. It's time to lead, honey. Right? But if it's I'm going to take charge of this family. I'm going to be the leader in this home. I'm going to be the primary in this home. That implies that there's a hierarchy. And that's the thing that throws women off. And that's exactly what she's talking about here. So women were taken advantage of and treated like second-class citizens, placing them beneath men. No, the hierarchy placed you beneath men. We are not meant to be equal, but no gender is below the other. Huh? We're not meant to be equal, but no gender is below the other. Then how do we explain the leadership structure here? Because if we're in the army, we got the private, we got the corporal, we got the sergeant and stuff like that. And guess what? Who's beneath who? And it works out pretty well because everybody knows their role and everybody knows their responsibilities and everybody knows what their authority level is and who has authority over them. And what is that based on? It's based on a merit-based form of respect. What did I say earlier? Men must become, women just are. This is a prime example of it right here. So placing them, okay, we are not meant to be equal, but no gender is below the other. Well, that sounds a lot like fem speak to me. Okay, we are designed to work in perfect harmony, like the yin and the yang. That's some communitarian shit right there. We can have men lead and respect women simultaneously. That, of course, then I go mouthing off. Respect is a gendered concept. Men base respect on merit. Respectability literally forms men's status hierarchies based on their performance. put this out here. Women's respect is common and unmerited. Everyone deserves respect. Conflicts with the earned respect model. Women can't look up to a man who is her equal. So I'm going to show you. We're going to also jump into another video here later on. Where I'm going to. People asked me to do this, so I conceded. Recently there was on Soft White Underbelly. It was Orion Taraban and your favorite and mine, Sadia Khan, was on the show. And man, I will tell you, she was nervous as a hooker in church. I mean, she just she was a machine gun with her words. I almost want to say she was on Vyvanse too. But I think her responses and her sort of body language and her like inability to let Orion, get in any words edgewise leads me to believe that she has imposter syndrome. But again, I digress. So then I love this. I don't believe in equality. I clearly stated it above. Yeah, well, no, you didn't clearly state it above, because what you also said is no gender is below the other. No, there would have to be. If there is a leadership structure, if there is any way you want men to lead, then they must have the authority to lead. They must be able to affect all of that responsibility that you say will save the world. So if that's the case, you've got to give up your rights. You've got to give up this it doesn't have to be your rights. This entitlement, this idea that men are inherently untrustworthy, that men cannot be trusted with authority. Until you can do that, until you can fundamentally change that in your head, you're fucked. No matter what you say, it's really not gonna make that much difference, because you won't give up that. You won't trust that guy well enough for him to lead you in the first place. And maybe it's men's fault. Like, I can hear many shit today. I'll be the first one to say guys need to do better. They do. But the thing is women also play a role in this, and nobody wants to talk about. We only want to talk shit about guys. We don't want to talk shit about women. In fact, this is probably one of the most endemic parts of TradCon, traditional conservative thinking today, or certainly the influencer wave that's coming today, right? Is they still want to rely on this masculine responsibility. Men need to do better. You got Charlie Kirk at TPUSA saying, like, men can't play PlayStation until their wives are women of leisure, right? Or all of their needs are taken care of, right? And you don't get to take a break until your wife and your kids are 100% taken, until you're like independently wealthy. And honestly, this is untenable, and it's a stupid way of thinking in the first place, right? But it shows you where his mental point of origin is. It's on women, right? But the concept or the solution, which is a 20th century solution, is that, well, men need to take more responsibility. They need to do better. Okay, how can they do better? Take on more responsibility. Well, how are they going to do that? How are they going to live up to the expectations of that responsibility if they don't have the authority to do so? So, like, back in the day, prior to the sexual revolution, back in the good old days of patriarchy, right? And I mean that in the idealized sense. Patriarchy is a much more balanced system, right? I wrote about this on my Substack once. I tried to make a distinction between gynocentrism and androcentrism. Those are two different things. And then matriarchy and patriarchy, right? Patriarchy is a natural evolution, or is a natural outgrowing or extension, let's just say, of sexual dimorphism, because men are much bigger. Men are built for combat. Men have larger lung capacity. We have higher red blood cell count. We have 99% more upper body strength than women. We can throw a rock with more force and more accurate than a woman can. Just natural evolved proclivities is one thing. That's not to say women don't have those as well. When you talk about communication, women have way better faculties, let's just say, that are part of their evolved sort of starting package, let's just say. But So there's those innate differences, and yes, I will at least meet you halfway. Men and women are innate natural complements to one another, but the way we organized tribes, the way we organized societies, and later on nations, was putting men in a hierarchical structure. That's how we have kings. That's how we have princes and duke, be a bitch and duke, and counts and viscounts and everything else. All the way down to the fief, to the peasant, right, to the prole. And even when we formed companies like the American, well, certainly American, but we the workplace. There's the CEO, the CFO, the COO, this guy, this guy, this guy. Then there's the janitor at the bottom of the rung, right? All based on what? Hierarchies. But that's not the way women organize society. They organize society in the round. They organize it in a community, because that's natural to women. Because women are the vulnerable sex in our hunter-gatherer ancestral past, in the good old days when we were running around on the sub-Saharan African savannas, hunting and gathering. Women would get together and they would have to form, collectives, community. Communitarianism is a natural extension of how women would, given the power, given the ability to do so, would organize society. It takes a village to raise a child, right? It takes a village to collect enough food. It takes a village, it's the longhouse, right? It takes a village to collect all the resources in one space, right? Men go out and kill the caribou. And men are the guy who gets the most meat, gets the most pussy. The guy who is the tribal elder, the guy who is the leader, the guy who has the most prestige in that hierarchy, he gets the most pussy. He gets the most chicks, right? Or he certainly gets the admiration and the vagina tingles for that guy, right? And by order of degree, by order of that hierarchy, right? So we organize society in a patriarchal hierarchy that is idealized. But the reason why I say it's a more balanced system is because patriarchy also implies that you have responsibility as a man. You have to be responsible for your family. You have to be responsible for your wife or wives and your concubines. And you have to be responsible for your kids too. You have to feed your kids. You have to, because that's what it means. What does a real man do? He takes care of his wife, he takes care of his kids. Even today we say that, right? Okay, great. You know what made patriarchy so great back then? The guy had the fucking authority to lay the fucking hammer down if he had to. Because he had the authority. He's the patriarch of the family. And so what daddy says goes. And if Junior does great, it reflects back on the family. And if Junior becomes a fucking criminal, guess who's responsible? Not Junior. You are. Daddy is. You're responsible for that delinquent. He's the problem. You have to go and fix the problem. But you had the authority to do so back then. That is not the case anymore, because we wanted to smash the evil patriarchy because it seemed like tyranny. But it wasn't. It was a balanced system in which men had authority and responsibility. But what women are afraid of is not patriarchy. They're afraid of androcentrism. Androcentrism is tyranny. Okay? It is 100% authority and 0% responsibility. So when we talk about deadbeat dads, or we talk about how evil men are, or how untrustworthy they are, women, it's not a distrust of patriarchy. It's a distrust of what they think could be androcentrism, meaning that men get to do whatever they want and women are responsible for their actions, and they're powerless. Women are powerless. But we don't have that now. We have gynocentrism, which is the gender swapped version of that. Women have 100% authority and 0% fucking responsibility. Well, you want to talk about matriarchy. There's never been a real matriarchy, right? But even if there was a matriarchy, it would still imply that the woman who is the leader of the matriarchy would still be responsible, would have some sense of responsibility and accountability for the family. If there's a matriarch, she's got to be responsible and for the well-being of that family. So very motherly, right? Very nurturing, very supportive, right? That doesn't happen now because women aren't interested in matriarchy. They're interested in gynocentrism, which is tyranny. Androcentrism, tyranny, granted. Gynocentrism, also tyranny. When we look at the fantasy world of Gilead in The Handmaid's Tale, that is a perfect example of androcentrism, a fantasy androcentrism. Because men have all the rights, they have all of the authority, and women have all the responsibility to bear children, literally bear children that they wouldn't otherwise bear. They would not have those kids. That's what the whole fantasy is based on, right? The women being, for lack of a better term, raped to have men's children that they would not otherwise have had. So that is a good definition or a good fantasy definition of androcentrism. That's why that show's still popular. That's why every freaking election cycle you see these chicks walk out there in their red frocks and their white hats and everything. Like they go, I'm going to cast a vote for freedom, because they believe this shit. They believe that that's a possibility, when actually they live in the exact opposite organizing of society, which is gynocentrism. What do we have here? Let's jump on these. I'll get these out of the way. Hey, Rolo, what's your take on Predator, Badlands, and Alien Earth teaser trailers? The Predator one is, I don't know. People keep saying they're trying to make it wokesy because the Predator looks black. In this, are there ethnic predators? Why black? Why, it's an alien. You could be blue. I thought Alien. Did you see Prey?
Yeah, I've seen Prey.
Prey was pretty fucking good. I think a lot of people really wanted to shit on it because they had this little girl who was the protagonist, but she was kind of offset by her brother in the show too. So it was I was pleasantly surprised with Prey. If they do something along those lines, it might not be that bad. My only reservation about Alien Earth is they're going to follow the comic book. And the problem I have with like Alien Earth is like it removes the mystery. It removes the fear factor that you used to have when you were watching the 1979 version of Alien, right? It was one alien and it wiped out. Honestly, Alien was just a snuff film in space. let's be honest. I mean, remember, like at the same time, you had like Friday the 13th. Yeah. You had Halloween, which was we're gonna kill off each one of these little kids except for the one chick at the end who's got the big boobs, and we're gonna put her in like bikini or underwear or like show her titties off, and she's gonna get away. It was the same formula, but it was a really good movie. Don't get me wrong. Then Aliens in '86 was good. People are gonna hate me for this. I thought Alien 3 was pretty damn good movie. I wish they wouldn't have killed off the characters they did, but I thought Alien 3 for what it was not a bad, because I know it went through all these rewrites and everything else and all that. It wasn't a bad flick. I don't think they should have killed Ripley at the end. Spoiler alert, they kill Ripley. And then they clone her for Alien 4. No one ever dies in these movies. I was watching Daredevil, the new Daredevil series, and they kill Foggy in the first 10 minutes of the first episode of the series. And my wife's like, because we watched the old Netflix versions. And she goes, I can't believe they killed Foggy. Blah 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 blah. I go, baby, it's the Marvel universe. They can bring him back anytime they want to. I'm sure the mirror, like the hand, will resurrect him or something like that. There'll be something, right? No. So, as far as Alien Earth is concerned, my problem with like the Alien as being sort of a series, it's on Hulu, right? I think it's going to end up being good. I think it could probably have been better. What I don't get is why the writers and why 20th Century Fox, well, what used to be 20th Century Fox, I don't understand why they don't do Alien versus Predator, the first Dark Horse Comics version of Aliens versus Predator. That's what they should be doing. The script's already there. It was a 6-part series, and it was just a fantastic story. Came out, I want to say, in the very early 90s, and it's been around for a long time. It doesn't take place on Earth, right? But it's a really, really good. I'm like, why on earth would they not like go back and like, filter through some of these really good plots and use those? They could it's Disney, for fuck's sake. They could very easily go license that from Dark Horse. I don't care what the money is. I hope it doesn't end up like AVP, like Requiem or something like that, where it's like they're fighting on a pyramid or some shit. Like
In Antarctica.
really? Yeah, in Antarctica. Yeah, we got to isolate it so they don't get all over the world. But yeah, I'm presuming that they're going to continue the story from when Ripley and forget the other chick. Anyway, the two survivors of the crash on Earth are gonna Ripley and what the fuck is it? Chick's name? It wasn't Winona Ryder, was it? Winona Ryder was in four.
So. Yeah.
Requiem. I think she was. Yeah, she would have been young back then. I just hope that they don't try to. I mean, maybe they will, but hopefully they'll do a good job. I was pleasantly surprised with Alien Romulus. I finally did see it. Yeah. I thought it was going to be worse than it was, but it was actually. It was just basically like fan service. The whole thing. It's like
Christian Hager.
Yeah.
And then Recchio Allsworth.
Who was the chick that was in that?
I'll show you.
I thought Winona Ryder was in that for some reason. She a very younger Winona Ryder. Oh, this is AVP though. No, I meant like the fourth Alien movie. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Winona Ryder. You weren't lying when you said that there were always one girl that takes over the podcast. Yeah, the blonde was a little. That's highly. By the way, the mud shark was cute. Okay. Yeah, Hailey's kind of a mud shark too. Go look up her porn. Yeah, I like Hailey quite a bit though. When she's not like 3 drinks in, she's actually pretty cool. I would consider instant bitch, just add alcohol. I would consider expecting authority without corresponding responsibility to be evil. That's was something or nothing sounds pretty evil. Okay, let's talk about that. I realize I put this in the title. I was baiting you. Titles have to do. I've got to use rage bait. Rage quit. Delusional women, and they have to be capitalized, of course. Delusional women. Delusional has to be capitalized. Let's see. Trying to think some of these other ones that are heated debate. Instantly regrets. There's so many like if you go, I've done this before. I actually wrote these down. If you go through YouTube and you look at the words like my podcast or the podcast section or niche, whatever. If you go and you look at the podcasts of like No Fugazi, or if you look at whatever podcast does this all the time, look how many times whatever podcast capitalizes and uses the word rage quit in their titles, and you'll completely understand what I'm saying. But if you go and you look at those are like hook terms. Okay. Instantly regrets, walk off, I guess. Rage quit would be the same thing. But there's a set of like sort of terms that you always capitalize so that people will put their eyes on those particular terms and then they'll click. It is clickbait. That's just simply how it is, right? But I don't like when I use the term evil, I only use that either as clickbait or I never use it I only use it lightly. Only because I think people tend to take it wrong. Like they think, oh, Rollo says they're evil. He's one of us. I'm like, no, I just, there are very few things where I would say that like if there's like this real malicious intent, like Destiny is evil, like definitely evil. Okay. There's no other way to describe someone's behavior other than like, forethought and malice, right? That's evil. Okay. And repeatedly doing so and doing so for no other reason. Like if there's monetary gain, I'm not going to call that evil. That's just you being, a, opportunistic fuck. Right. if there's some sort of comeuppance, if there's some sort of revenge factor involved in someone's behavior, I'm not necessarily going to call that quote unquote evil, right? But if people do like some sick bullshit, some evil shit that is for no other reason than it's either like they get off on it or it's just simply for the sake of doing it, that I will call evil, right? And only because I don't have a better term for it. I think when we start using terms like good and evil, we start to lean over into magical thinking. And I mean that in the clinical sense, okay? So there's a
Malicious egoist.
maliciousness, like for the sake of being malicious, you know? It's in D&D terms, it's lawful evil.
Lawful evil.
Yeah, you're lawfully evil. You're doing evil because evil demands evil. Right?
Spanish Inquisition.
Neutral evil. It's neutral evil. Maybe lawful evil. I don't know. People they think they're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. If there's like if there's no like function or reward for the behavior or for the act, that's probably evil. You just, I don't know. You can tell them, you can speculate on what the motives were, but like it's easy for me to see if like somebody steals something from someone or somebody kills somebody because they're fucking their bitch or something like that, or if there's like think of all the things that you could term as being like evil acts, right? Like serial killers, I would say are evil because they're doing it just for the sake of doing it, right? But if a dude kills another dude because he's fucking his woman, then I know that there was the jealousy factor, and I know there's sort of this human element that's in there. I wouldn't necessarily call that evil. If somebody steals a shit ton of money from you, odds are they're doing it not because they're evil, because they just want gain, right?
Now, is the way they die or kill depending on
That
how
could
evil?
be. That could be. Yeah.
Even if it could be like a crime of passion, right?
Well, then you've got like a psychological element to it as well. So, like for instance, if a serial killer kills his victims in these like Saw, it's like he's just like checks this chainsaw massacre. Right? The guy says, "You know what? I think I'm going to try that." Right? Okay, maybe. But if most crimes of passion are just like the guy's drunk and he has a gun and he blows away the other dude, right?
Yeah.
And then wakes up and maybe he regrets it. But when you're talking about like serial killers, okay, like Richard Ramirez, evil motherfucker. Yeah. Like Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy probably thought he was just normal as anybody else, but evil. Yeah, I don't like, this isn't the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night, but like I can make a distinction between somebody who's doing something for their own gain, or they're doing something for a sort of a human like drive and impulse versus fuck it, I'm gonna kill, let's watch the world burn, that kind of stuff. But I think it kind of goes along with a lot of the stuff that I talk about when we get into applying terms like good and evil to things that are easily explainable, right? There was I guess he was a sci-fi writer, Arthur C. Clarke. He's a sci-fi writer and an old sci-fi writer and a futurist too. And one of his quotes is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, right? And that's way deep. That's a really profound thought. Think about it, because like human beings will apply magic to shit that they just don't understand, right? So one of those terms might be good or evil or whatever, right? So if we don't understand something, we think of it as magic, right? So like if for instance, if I were to go back in time, I found a time machine and I took my cell phone, I took my iPhone just back like 20 years, or not even that, I took it back to like 1980, right? And I said, I have all of the world's information on this one little device. People would go, it would be magic, like, because they couldn't figure out what they would get. They would, maybe the technology level of the 80s would at least make people a little skeptical. They would probably want to know how it works, right? If I was to go back in time to the Spanish Inquisition and I had a Zippo lighter and I flicked the light, I have a light, kind of thing, then they would probably burn me at the stake or eviscerate me for being a heretic or a demon possessed guy, right? Because I have a technology that they don't understand, and so therefore it's magic, and you must be a sorcerer. Right? So I think that we have this sort of ability, or we have this. I think it's just sort of a stopgap measure for most human beings. I know that we have this. I learned this on Westworld actually. Is there's a module or a part of a section of the human brain that is predisposed to magical thinking or imagination, right? And sometimes that's the source of our great creativity and innovation, and then sometimes it's the source of tragedies and atrocities too, right? We still need to have hope. We still need to have imagination. We still need to have all that kind of stuff, but we have to pay a price for it too. So it's what could possibly be good can also possibly be bad as well. So, but I think that that's one of the things that we do. So if we don't understand something, we call it magic until we do understand it. And now it's a physical phenomenon. So it's gone from being metaphysical to being physical because we figured it out. How do we create fire, right? How do we see in infrared? I mean, stuff that we take for granted today would be magic just like 100 years ago or 200 years ago. So that's why I don't like to use terms like evil and good and all this other shit, especially when we can figure out what made the motives. Yeah. But if we can't, I'm okay with calling it evil. Looks like Rolo got the tickets to the gun show. Did you get your tickets to what? The gun show. What's the joke? I got arrested yesterday.
Why?
For carrying around these guns. I'm not okay. Yeah, I'm flexing, but I didn't do. It's May the 4th. This is Star Wars. This is the only Star Wars shirt I owned. If you didn't, or fucking Vegas Knights, bitch. Oh man, and I tell you, I got a little choked up when Marc-Andre Fleury left the ice. Because I have a Fleury jersey for when he used to play with the Golden Knights stuff, and Flowers just such a fucking good player, man. He's up for the Hall of Fame in 2028, so that's cool. Yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury is gone, but boy, the Knights are. I was telling Kyle earlier, they're predicting that it's going to be the Knights and Tampa Bay Lightning this year.
Oh shit,
that'd be nice. Thanks for yesterday. Oh yeah, you're welcome. John was part of the Zoom call for the Reignite, which was 100% free. And then we also got to tell you about the Reignite program, of course. I mean, you do have to listen to us tell you, trying to sell you on Reignite, but the whole lecture was free. And then what do we have? We're almost at the top of it. We have one slot left for the deep sea fishing trip if you guys are so predisposed to come with us. And I keep looking at the Instagram of Captain Nelson's was it Bill in Office is the name of the boat, and they are catching billfish, and they are catching dolphin, mahi. They're catching dorado, the fish of many names. That is, I call it fish tacos, but they're running early too, man, which tells me that the water's very warm. So if they're starting to pull billfish out and they're starting to get mahi, then it's going to be a good trip. The price is $350. So if you guys if you happen to be in Miami, or if you want to drive down from where you are, I have one slot left. I can only fit 6 people on the boat. I have 5, 4, and then myself. So we got one slot left. So if you're interested in that, we go out on May 15th, in the morning of May 15th, out of Miami. So and it's a full day trip. The only thing I ask you guys to pay for it extra is just tip the hands. That's all you got to do. So let's see. It was cool talking with you yesterday. Gossip says Barack Obama is banging both Jennifer Aniston and Scarlett Johansson. I find that very difficult to believe. Gossip from who? Jennifer Aniston. How old is Barack Obama? He's in his 60s at least. He's late 60s. Jennifer Aniston is my age. She is 57 years
63.
Old. He's 63 and she's 57. Maybe. I don't know. I do know that Big Mike is no longer with Barack now, or they're parting ways, because I saw that interview. And no, I don't believe she's actually he is going to be running for office anytime soon. And Mud Shark, come on, man. Well, I don't care, whatever you do, let your freak fly, man. I have no problem with that. Technically, I would be a mud shark. I love me some black women. I have no compunction in saying anything about that too. I remember when Myron and Fresh took all that shit from Abba and Preach and the rest of those guys about like how they didn't dabble in the dark. Oh no, it was no Jumper, but it was also what's his face from the comedian guy?
Adam 22? Oh.
Something two. No, it wasn't Adam 22. It was Andrew, whatever. Why do I always block on the name of their fucking podcast? Anyways, they gave him all this shit about that, like thinking that they were racist because they wouldn't ban. Like you guys are worried. You guys are pissed off. Andrew Schultz. That's right. Was it what the hell's the name of their podcast? Somebody tell me what their podcast is. Flagrant 2. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So Flagrant 2. They gave them so much shit for like we don't dabble in the dark. Like, Fresh doesn't, by the way. I know that's a fact. I remember when they were going through that. I'm like, how is this an issue? Like all these girls that are coming on the show and they're pissed off that like they're talking red pill stuff and everything else. That's not what upsets you. What upsets you is the fact that these guys don't want to have sex with black chicks. Really? What if I told you I'm good with that? What if I told you if I was single, I would probably prefer black chicks, right? No problem. No problem whatsoever. Black women tend to like me a lot. I don't know why that is. Maybe because I'm so white. I don't know.
Evens out.
Whenever I've gone out there, man, it's been like, because I have there's some pretty good looking black girls that are on Fresh and Fit. Well, I don't know, maybe today, but back when I was going on the show a lot, I was like, damn. So I got no problem with that. Especially when they got that skin, it's like that nice
glossy.
I have velvet, man. It's like, eesh. I don't have that. I got freaking psoriasis. Let's see. So anyways, one of the principal things I was going to get into today anyways is that I think that there is sort of this push that's not necessarily like, I mean, it's easy for me to like make a case of guys like Macca Murphy, Alex from Date Psych, certainly Will Costello and the rest of these guys who have been coming at me, and not just me, but other red pill creators who they never name. But the idea is that whenever they're quoting stats or whenever they think that like their job is to make the red pill turn whatever somebody said or whatever they heard in the red pill like into a straw man, right? And then knock it down with either data that they generated from a poll on Twitter, or else find some way to make people think that the dating scene is really not as catastrophic as everybody wants you to believe it, and particularly those red pill guys. Now, why do I say this? Because on Wednesday's edition of Access Vegas, I brought this up, and I meant to bring it up on this show as well. And this is this viral tweet that's been going around on. Last I saw, look at it. It's at 84.7 million views. Yeah, bravo, Will. I got to give credit to you, Will. This is pretty. Your Elon bucks are going to be through the fucking roof this month, man. So of course, why are women lying about this? And so the idea is this: is the guy on the left is the guy on the right. Okay. So the guy on the left is the before picture and the guy on the right is the after picture. And of course, what is William trying to do here? Well, let me explain. So this is a poll that he put out. This is Ollie Murs. I guess he's a musician or something. I have no idea who. I've never heard any of Ollie's music. I'm not sure I want to now. I might be a little curious, but so anyways, this is 12 weeks transformation in the gym. So on the left-hand side, you have him looking chubby, definitely carrying weight. Probably, what do you think? 20% body fat? 22. On the right, it says he's down to 10% body fat in. Although I'm a little skeptical, but I would give him 12, maybe 13, somewhere in there. He still looks good. He's still got much more definition than that other one. Okay. So, and then, of course, William Costello says, Do you think he looks better before or after? Are you male or female? Okay, so he's petitioning men. Do you think he looks better before or after? And then women before or after. Now, of course, the women, you'll notice that there's only 27% of the respondents are women anyway. So that this already skews and throws any data set out the window. But that doesn't stop big accounts like Tim Pool from talking about the same thing. And this is exactly what these guys do. This is what's called data laundering. Okay. So this is just an impromptu poll. This is a Twitter poll. This isn't control. There's no control group. There's no peer review. There's nothing like that. But what happens is these guys say, well, we're going to go and see if we could, they're going to go on a fishing adventure here, right? They're going to try to figure out which guy is more attractive or which before or after. It's the same guy, obviously. And of course, men are going to say after because it looks like he's put a lot of, energy, time, lifting. He's trimmed down quite a bit. A lot of people are criticizing these two pictures here because the first one he just sort of looks like fat and heavy and doesn't really care. And then the next picture in his after picture, it looks like he's flexing. It looks like he's showing off. And so people are going to say, well, it's because of his pose. It's because of his receding hairline. It's because of his, he's too white. He needs a tan. Tan drops 10 pounds off of you. But the idea of this whole thing was one of the reasons I used the video of Mac and Murphy today is the dad bod versus the hot bod. Now, I threw a quick response to this out, and I said, just once again from the top, what sells more, the dad bod calendar or the Chippendales calendar, right? And of course, everybody goes, well, this and this, and everybody wants to take it literally, or they'll go, well, only gay guys get the Chippendales calendar, blah blah blah. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is there is no dad bods calendar to begin with in the first place. You will not find a dad bods calendar, okay? Because they know nobody wants to invest in that. Nobody's going to buy that shit, okay? So let's be honest here and stop bullshitting and stop lying to ourselves and saying that the guy on the left is hotter than the guy on the right. Well, then we get into this discussion on Access Vegas. And of course, most of the girls on Access Vegas think that his after picture, he looks much hotter. He looks better. He's in shape. He's put the effort in. He put some, it's not just the physique side of it, which is probably the primary reason, but the idea that the guy has the perseverance and has the dedication to do something like that. So it's also a personality trait. But so everybody wants to say, well, women don't care about a few extra pounds. And that's exactly what these sons of bitches are trying to do. It's not as bad as you think, guys. It's not as bad as you think. You could be as heavy as this guy and you could still be attractive and women will still want to fuck you. Yeah, not the women you want to fuck. Fat chicks who are looking for dad or daddy, they might. But I will tell you right now, if you took Ollie, whatever his name, Ollie Murs, you took Ollie and he wasn't in this goofy, most muscular pose. He looks like Johnny Bravo, whatever. If you take him out of that and you just put a tank top on him and some board shorts or something, and you put him down at Wet Republic or Tao Beach Club or something like that, and he's just completely casual, that guy is going to get more female attention than his previous incarnation of him being fat and chubby and overweight. Simple biological facts. I see it happen. Happens all the time. But the problem is that every time I see shit like this, I saw this coming. I even this was my response to Will Costello, this is a predictable poll. It's not scientific interest. This is a poll meant to generate data that will in some way disprove the fact that the red pill fact, those red pill whack jobs, it will in some way disprove the fact that you have to be 12% body fat for any woman to really want to fuck you. Okay. Now I've got some other receipts too to show you guys here today. But the fact of the matter is that the impetus, the motivation to even do this in the first place is to say it's not as bad as you think it is. Women are not as evil as you think they are. It's really kind of a low key form of white knighting, right? These are male feminists. These are allies. right? These are guys who've decided that they're going to try to straw man the red pill, and they're going to knock down that straw man. How are they going to do that? Well, we're going to generate these bogus bullshit polls, these Twitter polls. Because remember, the people who are responding to Will are the people who follow Will, right? I mean, it's going to get passed around a little bit, but by that time, the poll's already over, right? Because it's a time poll. And the reason why the respondents of female was only 27% is because that's probably representative of his following, his followership. Like I'm fairly sure he doesn't have the same following that I do. And he certainly doesn't have the same following that a lot of the bigger accounts who picked up on this and rebroadcasted this, because that's what they do. Tim Pool picked up on this, and he had a good 15. Remember, this is like grist for the mill. This is free red meat for Tim Pool. This is free red meat for Chris Williamson. This is free red meat for trigonometry. It's free red meat for anybody who wants to take it and run with it. And that's what these guys do. Because if Tim Pool's talking about it, it must be gospel. It must be peer reviewed by 10 different, universities, and because he's Dr. Will Costello, right? Dr. whoever. So what happens is the impetus or the motivation behind this is not in any like scientific sense, because if it were, they would actually form a real research basis and actually do some proper methodology, but they're not. They're doing just a quick hit Twitter poll, which means fuck all in academic circles. In fact, they would laugh at you for this kind of quote unquote research, right? So when we're looking at the dad bod versus the hot bod, right? What the natural following up on this is that, well, certain women want to get with a guy who's a little bit heavier because they can hang on to that guy. Even Mac and Murphy was saying that. But Mac, to Mac's credit, is he was saying, guys who are more muscular tend to have more sexual partners. That follows. That is actual research that has been done prior to all this shit, right? But you're not going to hear that on Tim Pool's show. You're not going to hear that on Chris Williamson. You're only going to hear that from Mac or me or whoever else, right? But that's not what the point was. The point was to convince more people to think that it's not as bad as it seems. Put your head back in the fucking sand. Get back on the fucking plantation. Start going, take the blue pill again. It's really not as bad as it seems. So there's plenty of chicks who would want to fuck you if you're a little overweight. Look, women don't really care that much about how a guy looks. No, they do. They absolutely do. But the thing is if they can convince enough guys that's going to be okay, then are you going to improve yourself? Are you going to do anything different? Probably not. But again, I also can't underscore. I also can't. I can't give away this, a freebie here by saying that, all women are like this, or all women are men like it. Because what's going to happen is they're going to take these clips and they're going to go, well, Rolo says all women want, guys who are 12% body fat, or they want to, he thinks they all want bodybuilders. I didn't say that. That's why I used Ty Lopez in the beginning here. He's got the guy who looks like he's got a swimmer's body, which is really more along the lines of like what women like really kind of moon for, right? Are they looking for guys who look like Jay Cutler? Probably not. A little bit too hefty, a little bit too big, right? There's a fine line between being yoked and being so intimidating that women don't want to be around you because you're too fucking big, right? But those guys are like, don't worry about you working out too much, guys, because you're not going to look like Jay, not without a lot of trend, not without a lot of Masteron and Primobolan and God knows whatever his stack is, right? You don't worry about that. That ain't going to happen to you. What you need to worry about is not looking like that fat fuck. What also they don't say is that like when guys get into relationships, their testosterone levels drop. That's a well-studied, well-researched fact. So when men look like they're dad bods, they look like they're safe bets that they're going to stick around, that they're going to be parentally invested. And I think this, like I said, this underscores the idea that women are looking for two different guys, the guy on the left and the guy on the right. The guy who is 12% body fat with visible abs doesn't look like he looks like the kind of guy you'd want to fuck at the club, but he doesn't look like a guy who's going to stick around. So it kind of depends on where that woman is at, where she is in life, right? The average woman in the United States is 170 pounds and is like 5'4", 5'9", somewhere in there. She looks like a beach ball, more or less. 170 pounds, and I want to say she's 5'4". I think that's the average. So if we're going to take mean averages here, it's like, what do hotter women want to, what do women who are like 5'11" and have, 10% body fat or whatever, nice big boobies and look like the strippers here. What do they look? These women will say that they're looking for the dad bod, and then you go and you look at their Instagram and their boyfriends are all like, Thunder from Down Under dancers. So again, what a woman says and what she does are two different things. Again, the medium is the message. The actual message is what she's doing. So, but again, is it really that bad? So if there's another guy that I forget the guy's name. He goes by an alias on Twitter, but the guy is notorious for digging up these ancient ass stats, or maybe he creates his own fucking stats and wants to say, well, women might filter for guys 6 feet and taller on Tinder, but they actually end up with guys who are really more like 5'9" or 5'10". So it's really not that bad, guys. Don't worry about it. No, it's because here's where we get into assortative mating, right? Where guys will, the idea is that like gets with like. So if you're a certain height, if you're a certain weight, if you're a certain socioeconomic class, if you have certain big five personality traits, all those guys and all those girls who have similar, traits, similar physiques, similar body habitus, whatever, they all end up getting together. That's not the fucking point. Point is, what does she want to get together? So if you have women who statistically are worrying, dating apps like Tinder, like to the point where like they're petitioning Tinder to put height requirements as one of the profile characteristics on the profile for Tinder. If women are petitioning the apps to do that, height matters. It really fucking does, okay? Because women want to get with a guy who is taller than them. Wants to get with a guy that is taller. Does she get that in the long run? Maybe, maybe not. Does she get with a guy? Like, I am 5'11". You know how tall Miss Tomasi is? 5'11". And she has told me on several occasions, if you were even an inch shorter, I probably wouldn't have got with you. And I'm like, thank God I'm 5'11". And I'll tell you, man, when I take her, I've taken Miss Tomasi to Babes in Toyland, and she's worn heels, right? I got to wear my boots because I don't want to feel like people take pictures, and they do take pictures of me at those events, and they go, man, Rolo's really a manlet. I'm like, no, I'm 5'11". I'm actually almost 6 in these boots, right? But it's real, and there is so much research behind this. But with one data set, the idea that these guys are trying to foist on their followers and hopefully like get data laundered through bigger influencer accounts is that it's really not that bad. It's okay, guys. You don't have to be 6 foot tall, even though there's a height requirement on Tinder. It's okay, because eventually in the long run, if you're 5'9" and you're chubby like the guy on the left hand side of the before picture, you're still going to do okay, because some chick will settle for you. You'll be choice number 2 or 3 or 8, whatever. You'll be the guy who just happened to be around when she was at her moment of weakness. Right? You'll be the guy she settles on, because the guy she settles on, that guy forms part of the statistics for what assortative mating. It's not who she wanted. She got with you. So it's not that bad. You should be thanking your lucky stars, because eventually the nice guys win. Nice guys don't. Nice guys finish last, but they still finish, right? And it's like this. It blows me away because it's just one data set that is supposed to confound like 25 years of data sets that say height matters, height matters, height matters. You know, women who marry tall men are happier in their marriages than. And over and over and over again. Hell, I can show you the stats of this one where, like, if you are like, women want a guy who's like 5'10", 5'11", right? And that's like forms the 0 rank. And so if you're like at 6 feet tall, you don't have to make you can make less money and be 6 feet tall. If you're like Justin Waller's height, 6'3", you can make less money because the height factor compensates for the money not being there. But if you're 5'7", you have to make an extra $150,000 a year. I don't know how they do the math. I don't know who. Maybe they got Aaron Clary or some other actuary to do it, right? But the idea is this: is that depending on your height, it shows you like how much money you have to make to compensate for that height, which of course implies that all women are prostitutes, right? Or implies that all women are interested in is a lifestyle or financial gain, and then that throws other guys off too. So you extrapolate from that and you go, so it's really not about love. It's not love for the sake of love. She should just love me for who I am, bro. I should be able to just go into the club and she should just find me and just love me and want me, right? No. It's opportunistic is what it is. I think that throws guys off a lot. When I get in, I'm about to, we're at 2 hours now. I'm going to riff a little bit on the Sadia Khan and Orion Taraban thing here, and you'll see exactly what I mean. There's this idea. In fact, let me just give you the build up to this right now. The idea, I think, I mentioned this on Access Vegas about 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. There's this one chick that was on there, and I wish I could have had more of a conversation with this girl because she was new. I didn't even know who she was, and she was on there, and we were she would talk about like the kind of guy she was interested in. She wanted to get with a guy that was who was emotionally invested. He was emotionally available. He had emotional intelligence or whatever, and was someone she could fall in love with, and someone who cared about her, who was invested in her, mostly emotionally. Like, I want a guy who can love me and da 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 da. And of course, she's getting kind of like sappy about the whole thing. Really, the guy has to look good and lay down good dick too. But that's part of the emotional investment. So there's that aspect. But it's almost as if she was like saying, it doesn't matter how much money he makes, blah blah blah. But then, full stop. Then she's like, but I also want a guy who has ambition, who has drive, who can slit throats, who is proactive in his business, who has who I can conquer the world with, so we can be on the cover of Forbes magazine together and we can build our empire together. And it's all about this lifestyle that she wants too. So not only does he have to be the perfect guy that she can fall in love with, he also has to be Steve Jobs, right? He also has to be the perfect economic choice versus a perfect emotional choice, right? And I ended up stopping and I said, hey, you know what? You're talking about two guys, two different dudes, right? And of course, it relates back to alpha fucks and beta bucks. The beta bucks guy is the guy who provides the good lifestyle, is the guy who has provisioning, protection, and parental investment, right? That's the guy who provides an unquestionable amount of long-term security for that chick, right? Because he's on his game, because he's owns the law firm, because he is he's on a mission, he's got drive, he's got ambition. But the very things that would make him successful and would make that personality type success, that type A personality successful, are counter to what she would want in a guy who is also emotionally available and loves her unconditionally and wants to go on long walks with beaches and kiss her on top of her head and whatever else, that kind of shit, right? And so I'm saying you're looking for two different guys. It's really alpha fucks and beta bucks, but the evolution of that, I guess, or the fantasy of that is finding a guy who is not only like madly in love with just her, right, but is also an entrepreneur of the highest, an industrialist of the highest caliber, right? He has all this, but he's also, and only with her, this emotional being that it connects with her on some cosmic, universal, spiritual level, right? And I told her, I said, you're looking for two different dudes, because the things that would make one of those guys who he is conflicts with what makes the emotional guy or whatever he is, right? So either he has time for you and spends dotes over you and loves you and really has this emotional investment in you, or he has an emotional investment, or he has an investment in himself, because that investment in himself makes him successful in business and makes him on the cover of Forbes, right? And so I looked at this, and I'm probably going to write about this. I have an ulterior motive here. I'm actually taking notes as I'm doing, like in my head as I'm doing this, because I'm going to write probably a Substack about this and how women are in love with two different guys, and they can't find a way to sort of meld those two guys together. That's the frustration that they have. So, because I hear women on Access Vegas and on other shows who will say, guys ain't shit. Well, they can find a guy who's clingy. They can find a guy who's in love with them, but he just doesn't have the ambition and drive. Or they can find the guy who's emotionally unavailable, but he's on his game and he makes a lot of money. And neither one of those are really super satisfying for those chicks. So, but before I do that, let's do this. Hey, Rolo, whatever happened to Jamie Lynn? She fell off, man. She kind of stopped doing her podcast. I think mainly because she doesn't have a place to do it anymore. She was primarily doing it at Sticky Paws, and then Sticky Paws went tits up last July. And that's why we're in Red One right now. And I'll tell you the thing is funny. I offered, and Mike offered, Jamie to use this studio and she could do her podcast here because we're cool like that. But she found out that I'm a part owner, a part conspirator in all of this, and then she didn't want to do it anymore. I would love to have heard her response from the dad bod post. Shout out to the male stripper boyfriend. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. She wouldn't have a leg to stand on. But the problem with Jamie is if I get into a debate with her, it's kind of like beating up on a kid, And it's like, I know she's unprepared. And after a while, one of the things that kind of rubs me the wrong way about even Access Vegas, but like certainly whatever podcast and Fresh and Fit and everything else is, at a certain point, you get past the point of sort of diminishing returns with these girls. And it's usually after the third White Claw. It's usually like they're doing pretty good while they're still a little sober and they have some pretty cogent points, and they come back and then they get to the point where they kind of like top out. And that's the point of diminishing returns right there. And the risk you run as a host of a podcast is once you hit that point of diminishing returns, if you keep hammering and you keep like making your points and you keep being like, and you're just being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. And trust me, I can do it. Everybody else can do it. But you get to that point of diminishing returns, it kind of makes you look like the bad guy. When you get to the point of negative returns, that's the time to either kick the bitch off the show or stop the show because nobody wins after that. But you get into negative returns. YOLO. We're not going to talk about women's right to vote. YOLO. That's usually your question. Hi, please explain how to deal with women drama in a relationship. What kind of drama? Many red piles says that the oak tree and calm down her emotional storms. Can you explain how to be the oak tree in a relationship? You have to be indifferent to her emotional outbursts. Gosh, I got an idea. Hold on a second. That gives me an idea. You know what? I'm gonna answer your question here. In fact, I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to have Hartiste answer it for you. Okay. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Hell, let's just show you this. I will share this with you. Just share screen. There we go. This is the 16 Commandments of Poon by Royce or Hartiste, whoever you want to call it. So there's 16 of these. You just reminded me of this. Don't play by her rules, which is right here. Okay. If you allow a woman to make the rules, she will resent you with a seething contempt even a rapist cannot inspire. The strongest woman and the most strident feminists want to be led by and submit to a more powerful man. Polarity is the core of a healthy, loving relationship. And by the way, I live by that rule. She doesn't want the prerogative to walk all over you with her capricious demands and mercurial moods. Her emotions are a hurricane, her soul a saboteur. Think of yourself as a bulwark against her tempest. When she grasps for a pillar to steady herself against the whipping winds or yearns for an authority figure to foil her worst instincts, it is you who has to be there, strong, solid, and unshakable and immovable. So don't play by her rules. Understand that when she has emotional outbursts, you are the one who is indifferent to those emotional outbursts. You are the lighthouse in the storm, my friend. So be the guy who is immune to those emotional outbursts. That's really hard for a lot of guys because they want a good segue here. Most guys want to be that emotional dude. They want to be the guy who's like, oh, it's okay, baby. Come over here. I'll take care of you, blah, 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 blah. The minute you start doing that, that's when you're rewarding that behavior. Stop rewarding that behavior. And that's hard to do. And can you do this? This is a good question. Can you be in the presence of a woman who is crying and pissed off and upset and everything and not try to console her and not try to like, oh, come here, baby. It's okay. Because that is a very, very strong instinct in guys. If a woman cries, men like instinctively want to console that woman and say, that's okay. Don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. If a guy cries, it's like, stop being a bitch. Stop being a little pussy, right? That's, man up, sack up, take it on the chin, man, fucking rub some dirt in it, right? That's pretty much the recipe for guys who are having a rough time, right? Hey, come here, I'll give you bring it in, right? Yeah, maybe, right? But for women, if a woman is crying, it's like a child, it's like a baby. Oh, we gotta keep the baby from from crying. What's wrong? What do we gotta do? We gotta change the diaper. We gotta give it milk. It's the same thing for when I mentioned this in the Big Head Babies article. It's in my fourth book, but it's also an article I've written. The idea, like when Myron said this, I've said this on several occasions, but we've said that like women are like children, right? And I don't mean that as an insult, and I don't mean that as like, oh, women are infantile or like women take that the wrong way, right? No, it's because on an instinctual level, men look at women in the same terms as children, okay? Meaning that they're still delicate, they're still vulnerable, they need protection, right? They need to have the same, or at least a margin of the same kind of attention that a child would need. And not that, oh, they're stupid and they're emotional and they're just dumb children. That's what people take it as. But in an evolutionary sense, men are the ones who have to be the protectors, right? Because women are the vulnerable sex. So how do you get men to protect that vulnerable sex? You imbue that woman with a little bit of that childishness that the children have too, because the children are very delicate and even more vulnerable. So the woman has to protect the child, the man has to protect the child and the woman. And so how do you get them to do that? Well, you have to imbue that woman with a little bit of childish, I don't say childishness, but like qualities, right? And so that's why it seems like women are just like, oh, they're just stupid children. I don't know. That was never come out of my mouth. But men see women in part or in just characteristically as children, because if they didn't, they wouldn't rush to their aid if they were crying or if there was something wrong with them or they want to try to make something better. And in fact, sometimes that pisses women off because like it makes a guy seem like he's super clingy, right? If a guy, oh wait, it's okay, baby, oh I'm right here, like I'm here to help, when what they really need is they just need a guy to like hang on to and cling on to in the storm, right? So don't think that the red pill thinks of women as quote unquote children. I mean, I'm not going to speak for Myron and the rest of these guys, but I will speak for myself. From an evolutionary perspective, men have always had to view women as if, in part, partially, as if they are children, because that is what inspires them and motivates them to protect them. So there you go. Trying to explain that shit. Like I love having to explain these things over and over and over again, because it seems like some of the stuff that seem like red pill idioms seem very offensive, and they seem like, oh, well, women are property. No, I didn't say they're property. but there still has to be there has to be a leadership structure. When we talk about like patriarchy, we talk about like, men need to lead in the family and stuff like that. So it doesn't mean you have to be a slave. It just means that there has to be if there's a leader, there has to be a subordinate. That's how it works. Because if not, he goes, oh, we're gonna be equal. We're gonna be a yin and a yang. Then we're not in a hierarchy. Then nobody gets to lead. If what's funny is this is like, men need to lead in the relationship, but we want to have it 50-50. Okay, well, it's got to be one or the other. But the thing is like, if that's the case, who's leading? Is anybody leading in the relationship? If it's 50-50, who gets the responsibility? It's usually the woman that has to sort of make up for the fact that if a guy is 50% of it, she's 50%. He's not going to be the guy that she can look up to. He's not going to be the guy that is going to be able to protect her. And so if that's the case, there's a vacuum, and that woman has to step into that vacuum and provide that security for herself. And that's why she resents that guy. He's not leading. You won't let him. You want everything to be 50-50. It's this like negative feedback loop. Anyways. Yeah, women want a submissive alpha. No, they want, you know what they want? I've heard this. I wrote about this. Women want a beta with a side of alpha. They want a guy to be a beta. They want him to be sweet and nice and well, everything that Scott Galloway seems to think women find attractive. He's got to be, emotional. And he's got to be generous, and he's got to be kind and all this. Like, then why do they go for guys in dark triad personalities? Like that never crossed. I don't think I've ever seen Scott Galloway try to walk around that one. I'm going to show you two psychologists, actually one psychologist, because Sadia Khan does not have a degree in psychology. In fact, it's really telling, even in the beginning of this video. Let me give you the set. Let me set this up for you. These are just some highlights from. It's not the full thing, but there was an interview between I don't know who the host is of Soft White Underbelly. I don't know because I haven't been invited on it yet, Jim Sexton. But they had Orion Taraban on for the second time, and Sadia Khan, which I think is the first time. And I know why they're bringing him on, because they're trying to validate Sadia Khan as being sort of a psychologist in some way. She is not a psychologist. Go look up Sadia Khan on any Reddit forum, and they have done extensively background checks on her. She has no fucking degree, and she is flying by the seat of her pants and probably can't believe she's in the position she's in right now. And the reason I say that is because anytime you challenge her, she goes from being this very intelligent, well-spoken young woman to, she goes into like this very childish bullshit. By the way, the Will Costello, same shit. It's this wall of text and all of this data, all this stuff that he wants to talk about. And if you challenge him on anything like that, you're one of those red pill freaks, aren't you? Like it goes from this doctorate, college educated man to a middle schooler. And maybe Twitter does that to you. I'm not sure. But the same thing with Alex, same thing with a lot of these guys, is they will go from being very academic. And if somebody challenges them or somebody talks shit to them or somebody, even questions them on Twitter, they devolve into a middle schooler in their responses. That to me is very telling. If your responses and your comebacks aren't as well thought out and well reasoned as your initial premise, it tells me that there's another reason for you. You were expecting no one to question you, basically. Okay, so this is Orion Taraban and Sadia Khan. Somebody asked me to do this. I watched the whole thing. It's kind of long, so I decided to use the pared down version of it. But I want to sort of riff on this a little bit just so that I can clear the air, I guess. Maybe Soft White Underbelly sees this and they want to, have me on to sort of set everybody straight. But there's so many misconceptions in this that I really felt like something that I had to do. So let me see, where is it? Okay.
Right. We have Sadia and Orion.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Wonderful to see you guys again.
Good to see you. Very excited.
This is very exciting to have both of you. You're both experts on romantic relationships.
Turned out that way, I guess.
Yeah, self-proclaimed, but okay.
Yes,
Self-proclaimed. Okay.
I just find your insights to be so helpful and so needed in this world where we're all struggling to connect. And let's just get into it. Sadia, this is probably a question that you could start with. Tell me about hypergamy. Does hypergamy exist?
It definitely exists. I just think it's been hijacked with the wrong definition in the world of the internet.
But before you get into it, it's basically the premise that women are on the lookout for another guy when they're in a relationship already.
Okay, we're already starting from a bad premise. That is not what hypergamy is. Hypergamy is it's really dual mating strategy. It's alpha fucks and beta bucks. Does it manifest as women dating outside of their present monogamous relationship? It can, but it's not something. Does it exist? Is it a believable thing? It's not a faith-based thing, okay? It is women's innate mating strategy. That's what it is. It is the women's trying to find a balance between alpha fucks and beta bucks. What did you say? I don't know if I'm going to do that.
That's nasty.
There you go. Is that what you want, Sam? But we're already starting from a bad premise. Okay. Now I mentioned this in several times, but I have a post on my blog on the Rational Male, and it's called the Hypergamy, the Misconceptions. Right. The first one is that hypergamy is not a straitjacket. Right. And that's what they're really going to get into here. And this is why I have to kind of, stop this and sort of riff on this a little bit, because this is just the shot across the bow. It's already starting from a misconception, a perception that this is what hypergamy is something that can be turned off and turned off. And it's not. It's simply women's inability or ability to find a guy who is the hot guy in the foam cannon party in Cancun, a guy who wants to fuck, the guy who can fuck, and the guy who can be the good dad. So when I was talking about this guy right here, where'd we go? There we go. This is hypergamy here. The guy on the left is the beta bucks guy, the guy who can provide the good dad. We discussed this ad infinitum, ad absurdum. We have discussed this into the ground. Why would women want to get with the guy who's fat on the other side? Because he's a good dad. Why would they want to fuck the guy on the right and maybe, just have a short-term mating strategy? Because that's alpha fucks. And we've already hashed this thing out. That's hypergamy. The reason why there's a conflict between those two guys being they're the same guy. The reason that there's a conflict between the two of those is because of hypergamy. That's why. It's not something that's imaginary. It's not something that's just women can turn it on. Well, she's more hypergamous than no. It's the same. It's the subroutine that is running in the background process of every woman.
As an upgrade?
As an upgrade.
As an upgrade, yeah.
Exactly.
With the key thing.
They're going to monkey branch from one guy to the next, and no one knew this was even going on. And it was is it something that women do consciously or is it subconscious?
I think it really just stems with how many gaps she has in herself. The more she feels unfulfilled in herself, the more she will be a girl that's constantly dipping with different types of men. But the more high self-esteem and the more fulfilled she is, the more of those gaps that she has within herself that she's fulfilled herself, the less likely she is to do that.
She is machine gunning off these answers too.
Because the key is with women who kind of monkey branch from one man to the other is they pick men that they don't truly admire to begin with. They pick men that just adore them, but they don't particularly admire. When they're in that position, they automatically feel like they can do better. The moment you are with a man that just totally adores you and you don't truly admire him, you think this must not be the best deal. Because if it was, I would be admiring you more. So they're constantly on the lookout for a man that they truly admire. And until they find that, they'll keep their eyes open. But if they find a man that they truly admire and they're truly attracted to, those two things, admiration and attraction, she's loyal to a fault. She'll become so loyal, more than she should be. She'll be waiting for him while he might be in jail. She'll be, sharing him with another woman, but staying at home for him. So hypergamy only exists when a man allows her to believe that she is out of his league.
Okay. No, dear. Hypergamy exists outside of all of that. Hypergamy is women's basic operating system. Like I said, it's a subroutine that is running in the background process of every woman. And I don't care if she's 90 years old, she's still putting on makeup, right? I don't care if she's, 12 years old and just learning how to put earrings on or stuff like that. Every single woman has this concept of trying to balance CAD with dad. It's, as I said, it's this is hypergamy right here. Well, one looks better than the other. One looks like a good dad, and one looks like a good cat, a good time to fuck, right? It's balancing those two. Now they're going to talk about this in just a minute. Ryan actually has something good to say, but for every 100 words that come out of her mouth, like Ryan gets like 10 out. But the base premise here is completely out of whack. And I don't know, maybe it's because I forget the guy's name, the host of the show, but just starting off from this misconception that he has. Hypergamy is dual mating strategy. It is alpha fucks and beta bucks. And does that mean, because here's the thing is, and she's completely wrong about this too, because she's kind of like leaning over a little bit into mate switching hypothesis, meaning like, well, if he's not the best I can do, then I'm going to switch up. Well, it depends on what you mean by switch up. So is it switch up socioeconomically, or is she going to fuck the pool boy? So those are things that I don't think a lot of people like to talk about that shit.
Then she'll keep her options open.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a good point to that. I have the balance of attraction metaphor, and you're talking about when the woman is in the adored position, she's being put on a pedestal, and the man is giving her all of that energy. She doesn't feel like she's with a catch, even though on paper the guy might be worth 8 figures and a doting husband and a fantastic father. And so women use their emotional signaling as sort of a proxy for, am I with the best possible mate for myself?
Okay, correct. But for the wrong reason. Correct, yes. Women, especially with women who are already paired. Now, here's the thing that gets me about the whole thing is hypergamy exists outside of monogamous relationships. Okay, this was the very first premise I threw out there when I was debunking mate switching hypothesis. Mate switching hypothesis presumes they're mated already. So how are you going to tell me that that's a sexual strategy when it requires there to be monogamy between the two for that strategy to even exist? So what was the strategy before those two came together when they met in the club? They didn't know each other at all, right? So what was the strategy then? Dual mating strategy. You know what's funny is I watched, or it was Mac and Murphy put out some, I know what it was. It was some research that his school team, whatever his university was, they were looking at infidelity, and they were looking at partner attractiveness and whatever else, and they found no evidence of mate switching hypothesis being valid according to their research. And it was at that point no one was talking about mate switching hypothesis anymore. Suddenly that hypothesis was like a fart in the fucking wind. Even David Buss wasn't talking about that shit anymore. In fact, dual mating strategy seemed to be reinforced by the data that Mac and Murphy's team or whatever were putting together. So you guys gave me a ration of shit for debunking fucking mate switching hypothesis, and now it just crickets. Now it's just fucking the wind. Can I get a fucking reach around? Can I at least get some fucking flowers for calling you guys out on that and calling bullshit on that? Because nobody talks about that. Nobody's trying to back that shit up anymore. Seems like one of those red pill guys actually had something to say about that. Right? So that's really interesting. Well, the reason why I'm saying that Orion is half right here is because, and they both dance around this, they just don't want to talk about female sexuality. They do not want to talk about it. Because everything, if it's premised on marriage, if it's premised on mate pairing and pair bonding, if it's premised on family, because that leads to family creation, right? So if it's premised on socially enforced monogamy, we'll talk about it. Great, awesome. Okay, well, don't you think women like to fuck? No, yeah, well, we're good. Let's go back to talking about marriage and the fertility crisis and everything. They don't want to have anything to do with that. They dance around that, and I don't even think they're dancing around it. I just think that they're so used to not talking about that or fixating on just pair bonded monogamy. I think that fixation right there, it's become like second nature to them. That's why they start off with a misconception like this, like monkey branch. Isn't hypergamy monkey branching? It can be a manifestation of hypergamy, but that is not what hypergamy is, right?
I think on the internet there's also a bit of a misgiving about hypergamy in the sense that women are constantly looking out for even a slightly better option, and they'll jump ship the first time an opportunity presents itself. And I don't think that's the case, because there has to be some attrition between relationships. So it's like if you have a
Okay, he is correct about this. Again, one more thing I threw out in hypergamy of the misconceptions is that hypergamy is not a straitjacket, and he is correct that there's a lot of, especially in the doomer sort of MGTOW black pill communities. One of the cop outs, one of the copes that a lot of these guys use is that why would I want to get into a relationship with a woman who is just going to jump ship the moment she finds a better dude than me, right? So therefore, I'm not going to do anything. I quit. I'm out. I'm going to be a Sigma male. And the fact of the matter is that, and he won't mention this, but I'll just clarify for him here, is it's not so much attrition in the relationship, which it can be. I mean, I think he's right, but he's incomplete, right? The other part of this that completes this is the fact that women get older and women are less able to, a woman who's 23 and she's like at an 8.5 or 9, she's a 9 at 23. Now she's 33 and she's a 7.5. The girl who was 23 at 9 could much more ruthlessly, mercenary, enforce be much more powerful, much more agency, according, as afforded by her sexuality, to be able to jump ship, to be able to monkey branch, to be able to do those things. She doesn't even have to be married to the guy. She can just say, I don't want to get with this guy. I want to get with this other guy because he's a better prospect for me. I met this cute guy that was at the club the other night, but I just met this other dude at Tao Beach Club and he was really hot, man. I'm going to get with him instead. Doesn't even have to be a marriage. There doesn't have to be any attrition. It just has to be a selection process between those two. So, but the girl who was at 23 does not command the same attention that she did or that she could when she was 33. And that's why I say hypergamy is not a straitjacket. The guy who is 30 years old and had to deal with all of these sort of fickle, duplicitous bitches during his 20s now doesn't have to do that, because the women who are 33 are motivated and they have something else going. They have the urgency is there, and they're much more likely to settle on a guy who is not 100% what they want, but if he's 80%, maybe that'll do, right? That woman is no longer as, is as hypergamous as she was when she was 23 years old. So you can't think of hypergamy as a straitjacket. It can't, because here's the other thing. If you are 25 years old, you're a man, you're 25 years old, and you're a little bit chubby and you're a little bit out of shape, and then 2 years, and now you're 27, now you're 28, right? 3 years later, and you're jacked. Are you going to experience the same level of duplicity? Are you going to experience the same level of worrying about monkey brain? Are you going to worry about a woman's loyalty, to you when you were fat? Yeah, maybe your worries and your insecurities were justified. But when you're 28 and you have multiple, and you've gone from this condition of sexual scarcity to sexual abundance and sexual selectivity because you've improved yourself, you're not going to be as worried, or you're not going to be as concerned with a woman jumping ship or attrition or monkey branching as you were when you didn't have those same opportunities. Because a guy who is starving, a guy who is not used to a lot of sexual opportunities is going to be more insecure. Well, they're all going to leave me. I can't believe it. Well, they're going to leave you because you're not as good looking as, or not as hot, or not as successful, not as jacked, or not as +1 as you are now at 28, or maybe you're 30. That's why I keep telling guys, one of the reasons why I have said from the get-go, don't even think about monogamy until you're 30 years old. That's why. Because it takes longer for a man to mature into his peak potential. When that guy gets to be, for the sake of argument, let's say that guy gets to be 35, 36, he's a partner in a law firm. He's jacked. He knows how to take care of himself. He's maximized his potential. That guy is going to be far less worried about hypergamy or the effects of hypergamy than the guy who didn't have all of that and he only had one opportunity. He had zero sexual selectivity. Now he's 36 and the girls are all just falling into his DMs now. That guy's not going to be worried. That's another aspect of that they're never going to talk about. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, it's like don't be worried about what hypergamy is, because times change, people change, conditions change, environments change. And the girl who you thought was going to just jump ship at a moment's notice, now suddenly she wants to stick around because she might have fattened up, right? she might have a kid in tow. That's going to definitely affect all of that monkey branching and that other bullshit. She might want to fuck the pool boy, but she's got a kid in tow, and you're now the stepdad of that kid, and she doesn't want to fuck around on you because she doesn't want to ruin the perfect thing for her and for her kid. So maybe there's going to be a buffer in there. You don't know. That's why hypergamy is not a straitjacket. Got it? Good.
30-year relationship, it's going to be very difficult to start over from scratch. Hey, I was born in Las Vegas. I got a sister. I'm into psychology. To start from zero, it takes a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be just a slightly better option at that point. It has to be either the woman is extremely dissatisfied, which increases the perceived benefit from jumping ship, or it has to be a supremely better option. Like, you might be happy with your job, you might not even think of leaving, but if your recruiter calls and says, we'll give you 10x what you're being paid, okay, that's something that you're probably going to consider. Mm-hmm. But if it's just like $5,000 more a year, I don't think you're going to be willing to.
I think guys are more afraid of like her friend who's the trainer that trains her at the gym, or some guy that came to the party that she knew and things like that.
So then if hypergamy does exist, how do we explain the fact that they all cheat on their 6-figure man or 7-figure man for their, taekwondo instructor? How would you explain that?
Here's how I would explain it. Alpha fucks beta bucks. That's how you explain it, because they haven't even brushed the surface of what hypergamy is. They still won't touch the raw sexual part of alpha fucks beta bucks. They won't go there. That's why this is a mystery. That's why she's like asking these questions in the first place, right? Yeah, you want to know why Steve Harvey's wife fucked the bodyguard and the personal chef? It's not because they were millionaires. It wasn't a trade up. It wasn't because they're like, oh man, he's got a better house in Mykonos. No, it wasn't that. He's Steve fucking Harvey, and she still cheats on the guy. You know why? She wanted good dick. That's as simple as that. She wanted to fuck. Right? I mean, Jesus. What did I say? In the words of the great wise prophet David Lee Roth, everybody wants some. Want some, got some. That's what it is. That's all it is. You know why she wanted to fuck the bodyguard? You know why she wanted to, like, you could also say this. Why is there this endemic rash of female teachers who statutorily grape their students right now? It's not because those 15-year-old boys have a home in the Hamptons. It's because they want to fuck those guys. That's what it's about. That's what they're missing. You got to get this excitement. Yeah, you know what that excitement is? It's fucking a guy with a 10-inch cock. That's what the excitement's about. So, Jesus, it's not rocket science.
Because, and I think this works for both men and women, that I think when people cheat, we often see them cheating down. Mm-hmm. Like James Sexton mentioned that the other woman is generally not as attractive as the wife. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the wife's lover is the pool boy or the trainer or something like that. It's like, what's going on? How does that fit into your idea? And
the pool boy or the trainer doesn't have to make a 6-figure income. She already has that in spades. She's already got that in the guy that she's with. What doesn't she have with that guy? She doesn't have a guy who rocks her world in bed. That's the simple answer.
I think people are trying to get all of their needs and desires met across multiple relationships. So if you're in a stable, secure, loving relationship, you don't need more security.
Yeah.
You don't need more stability. You might need some excitement. You might need some passion. You might need
a 12-inch cock.
Some danger and uncertainty, and you're going to find that potentially with the insecurely attached guy with 3 children by 3 different mothers.
Actually, it would probably be a woman with 3 children from 3 different fathers, but let's keep going.
By the same token, maybe you're a man and you are in a contentious, conflictual relationship with your wife. You might have an emotional affair with a woman who's just a safe haven. It might not even involve sex at that point. So people are trying to get their unmet needs met in their affair relationships.
The Nomad Capsule.
All right, she's going to do that's her sales pitch. Hang on.
The quickest way to prevent a woman from cheating on you is your selection. Really, sometimes some men are bums and they're terrible to women, and yet they manage to get so much loyalty out of the woman because they've chosen a woman who's just not that way inclined. A woman that's got a one-track mind, she's just very closed off all the alternatives as soon as she meets that man. And there's other women you can do everything for, but her mindset is always to have alternatives open. It's just how she is designed. So I think
so she's going to make this about this is what I call specialty work. Okay. It's like, well, there's special women who do this and there's special women who do that. And the problem I have with this is we're still trying to find a baseline for everybody's this individual. Everybody's this blank slate. Everybody has some new, has some sort of X factor to them. Right. And I'm just like, it is such bullshit. Right. Like the very simple answer to this is that when we're looking at hypergamy consists of alpha fucks and beta bucks. Okay. It is the long-term security needs versus the short-term sexual needs. We already have covered 90% of this. We're just dancing around the actual definition, right? And 90% of it is because there is such a misconception online about all of this stuff, right? So when we're going to talk about, women choosing, they're with these bums, and these bums are still, they have such loyalty for these bums. Yeah, the reason why they have those bums are so loyal is either one, that woman has low self-esteem, number two, and or she wants to get dicked down by a guy like that. She wants to get dicked down like a hobosexual, right? Is that what it is? You're a hobosexual. You basically fuck for your rent. You fuck to live with the chick, right? I remember this because I remember when I used to live in Lake Tahoe, there were some very attractive women who they would work at the hospital, or they work at the hotels and stuff like that, and they're making good money. They could pay their rent. They had money to spare, and they would always get with the lifties, right? The guys who are the lift tech, the ski lift techs, and they were just snowboarders. They were transient workers, right? And they had no money. They were bums. Their entire life was snowboarding, being a lifty, and smoking a lot of pot, right? And that was really pretty much and categorically exactly what she's describing here. And it's not because you're just choosing wrong. No, they specifically choose these guys because they're hot. They don't need security. They have all the security they need. They don't need long-term security because they've got jobs that pay them well over, what they need to survive. They're essentially stepping into the masculine role. And so what do? Like I keep saying this all the time. It's like we live right now in a society where women have become the men that they want to marry, men that they want to get with, right? Alpha fucks, beta bucks. When we're looking at the beta buck side, that is all about long-term security. Provisioning, protection, and parental investment. If a woman can provide that for herself, what's left? Alpha fucks, you're right? And that guy can be a fucking bum. He could be a homeless snowboard guy who smokes a lot of pot. As long as he's got six-pack abs and he's got a 9-inch dick, that's all that matters. That's all that makes any difference because they can take care of all the rest of the prerequisites of hypergamy themselves. That's why they get with it. It's not about selection. They're picking the wrong guys. No, they're picking the right guys. They're picking the right guys for what they are at that particular time. That's what they want. They want to be with that guy. And then they realize that they're never going to turn the lifty into dad. They're never going to turn what is it? The Tinder swindler into their Prince Charming. That's never going to happen. And so then they regret that and it falls apart and everything else, but it still comes back to one simple equation: alpha fucks and beta bucks.
That the pre-selection is more important than the post, like what the relationship looks like post-selection. So I would always say it's what the woman is like, and similarly to man, what they're like, rather than what you offer them. And a lot of men, I think, well, I'm the best option she'll ever have. I'm far better looking than her ex. I've got far more money than her exes. There's no guy taller than me that she hangs out with. But if she is either hyper-promiscuous or unable to commit kind of woman who goes from one to the other, it doesn't matter what you offer her, she'll find a route to cheat.
Selection is very important.
Yeah.
I think 90% of successful relationships is selection.
Yeah.
Is it more?
Okay. So this is what I love. I love it when we come down to like selection, right? Can I just like interject here? Nobody selects. No one selects jack shit. If you happen to be in the club at the same time the hot chick is at the club, you're not going, I will admit to this right now. When I met my wife, I didn't go, I wonder if she'd be a great mother to my children. I didn't go, I wonder if we could just have two great greyhounds and live in Bay. I wasn't thinking any of that shit. No one selects. No one goes, you know what? And no guy is going to see a hot piece of ass and go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to fuck her because that's not what I'm looking for right now. Get the fuck out of here. When I met my wife, I was like, I want to tap that out. I still say that today. And thank God, because that is a strength of my relationship with my wife right now. We still have a high sex drive for each other. You want to know what the glue that keeps a relationship together is? Sex. Simple as that. Now, are there other things? Yes, of course there are. Do I love my wife dearly? Absolutely. Do we have a great kid together? Absolutely. She's a good mother. She's nurturing. She's fun. She balances me out. Like when we're talking and stuff, we still have a lot of fun together. We're still a great team. We're still a great clique. Okay, fantastic. No complaints. Right? Great. But I did not say, she seems to be exactly what I'm looking for. I've got this 98 bullet point checklist here, and it seems like you hit pretty much all of them. Like, get the fuck out of here. No one selects. No one. Even if you're in Bible study and the girl you've known since you were 13 and you're like, hey, maybe I'll marry Susie, right? Like, you're still not selecting because she's the only thing there. And most guys and women too just simply don't know. Well, even if you had it, like the only time people start thinking about like pre-selection, or I shouldn't say pre-selection, when they think about like what it is that they're looking for in an idealized partner or something that they want to do, you want to know what trips them up is the fact that they have those criteria in the first place, is the fact that they're like, they're not open to meeting new people. Because most people that's one at a time. I love how we're supposed to be so prudent in our sexual and selecting a partner and everything, but yet we're still not supposed to fuck more than one woman at a time. We're still not supposed to spin plates. We're still not supposed to date non-exclusively. No. That's what a player would fucking do. Well, don't I need a pool of applicants to select from? Well, yeah, if you want to be prudent about it and you want to find the right one, you got to be careful who you select. Well, then don't I need a pool of applicants? Don't I need a pool of people that I can select from? No, because that would make you a player. Well, what the fuck do you want me to do? And that's a moot point because nobody does that anyway. Literally no one does that anyways. 80% of guys are unattractive, are deemed unattractive, are categorically categorized as being unattractive. They're invisible. Do you think those guys are selecting? That doesn't mean they're not going to get laid. It doesn't mean that they're not going to like find somebody eventually, right? Do you think they're selecting? No. They're happy someone is sucking their dick. They are happy somebody winked at them. They are happy somebody like, hey dear, touched them on the shoulder. That's all. That's the selection process. Hey dear, can you get this for me? That's the selection process. Yeah, right place, right fucking time. That's the whole purpose. It's not that complicated, right? No, very few. How many guys do you know? How many like that are married? And you can't include me in this because I am exempt from this shit. But how many guys that you know have been, married 10 years, 15 years? Yeah, 10 years. Let's round it off to a good decade, right? Been married for 10 years. How many of those guys had a roster, had like 8 chicks, 10 chicks that they were dating at the same time? And the guy goes, you know what? I was dating 10 chicks, and Kathy, she had all of the requirements that I had come up with because it's part of my value system and it's part of like, my personality and the things I need from God and the things like how many guys were dating multiple women and the woman that they're with is the one that they chose, that they selected out of all that. I would say precious fucking few. If Mike Sartain came to me and said, you know what, I've been banging like 20 different girls at the same, on this concurrently, right? And this chick seemed to be the best. I can accept that. I would absolutely accept that because I know that's what he's doing, right? But that's never gonna happen. But most guys who don't have sexual selectivity in the first place, to expect them to make a choice and an informed choice at that is ludicrous. It sounds great on a fucking podcast. It sounds like prudence and it sounds like what some good sciencey psychologist would say. But in practicality, it is untenable. It is bullshit. No one selects. People happen to be in the right place at the right time. And if you find a good one, you hang on to it. It's simple as that. It really is.
Important. I mean, tell me the difference between being the adorer and the adoree. Like in all relationships, there's usually one person who really, really loves their partner, perhaps more than the other.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it like an example of that. I don't know if you know Selena Gomez. She's currently dating this guy, and I saw it go viral. And she used to be with Justin Bieber. And you can see she's with a man that truly adores her, worships her. But until a woman is attracted to you, your adoration is interpreted as neediness and desperation. The only thing that will turn a man's adoration into security is if she finds you attractive and she's attracted to you as a man. If she doesn't find you attractive, she will utilize your adoration. Maybe she needs you financially or to help her feel heal from an ex or just help you with her mental any way, shape or form, but she won't truly be attracted to you. And you'll notice a heavy decline in the sexual intimacy on her end, despite your efforts to make her feel safe. It just won't be initiated from her. And that will happen quite early on in the relationship. And sometimes I'll meet these men that are dating women who are 28 years old, 29 years old, and they're like, oh, she just doesn't have a sex drive. And I always say, with you. The key word is with you. She has an amazing sex drive. At 28, what woman doesn't have a sex drive? It's with you is the key point. And hyper adoring a woman who doesn't quite admire you is the quickest way to desexualize yourself.
Yeah.
What would you say, Orion?
Yeah, it's sort of like the part that women always leave out is you ask women what they want. They say they want a kind man, they want a loyal man, they want a man to treat her like a queen, to adore her. But the part they leave out is they want all of those things from a man they're already attracted to. Yeah. And they've already decided to be attracted to that man without knowing yet whether he's kind or loyal or devoted. Yeah. So attraction isn't actually predicated on those things. It's predicated on other things. And so as a man, we need to say that part out loud to other men and say, you need to work on becoming an attractive man. And the other stuff can come later. Because if you prioritize the one ahead of the other, you're not going to get anywhere.
But what?
Okay, so let's halt that right there. Now I agree with Ryan. He's correct about that. The idea of the adorer and the adoree. Okay. Yes, you want to be the primary. Simple as that. Like I have on several occasions had my wife say, I look up to you and I admire you, right? You need to be the primary. And most guys are not ready to do that. And most women simply won't. They don't find a guy attractive enough to be the one who is the adorer. And here's the thing is, this is what the cardinal rule of relationships. In any relationship, the one with the most power is the one who needs the other the least. That's out of book 1. Okay. The one with the most power in any relationship, it doesn't even have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a business or a family relationship. The one with the most power is the one who needs the other the least. And so what they're really trying to sort of dance around here is power dynamics. So when the best relationships, you will find, I talked about this in a post. I think it's in one of my books. It's called Sexual Market SMV Ratios. And so what I did is I broke it down like what the attachment is for, like, say, let's just say parity, right? You're a 6 and she's a 6. Okay. Women don't want, if a woman is a 6, she doesn't want to get with another 6. She wants to get with a 7. She's always looking up. That's hypergamy. Once again, is dating up, is fucking up. It's looking for the bigger and the better deal. Women who is a 6 does not want to get with another 6. If that guy is a 6, he better have value added, meaning he's a 6 with a 10-inch cock. It goes up. He's a 6, but he has $500,000 in the bank account. Goes up. Right? He's a 6, but he's a partner in a law firm. Goes up. Right? So there's value added if that woman sees herself at parity with that guy. The healthier relationship is if the guy is unquestionably a 7 or a 7.5 or an 8, and she is a 6, much more stable, much healthier relationship. Where you get out of whack is if the guy is a 9 and she's a 6. That's when she starts getting clingy, and that's when she starts becoming very possessive, and that's when it's like, where are you? It's surveillance, right? You know, are you at the strip club? One of the conversations I've had between myself and Mike Sartain and Justin Waller, as a matter of fact, is we are very high value guys. I mean, relatively in our own ways, right? Relatively speaking. Now, I'm the only one that is like monogamously married, right? I have a wife. It's closed on my end, closed on her end. Okay, that's it. Mike and Justin are not in situations like that. And the women that they are with have little choice but to accept the terms of their relationships, of the status of their relationships. So for Mike, and Mike's very open about this, so I'm not like selling anybody out. He wants to be able to have a girlfriend, a hot girlfriend, and also have her go and bring other girls into bed, right? So they're not technically monogamous, but they are. But he wants to find a girl who is also, into other girls and will bring girls into bed, right? That's what he had with Kylie for a while. And so it's technically open on his end, but, with some contingencies to it, right? So it's open on his end, or closed on her end, open on his end, right? With, like I said, contingencies. She goes and she's okay with having sex with the girls, right? So fine. Then there's Justin Waller, who has 2 children. He's got a baby mama who, for all intents and purposes, is his wife, might as well be his wife, but she also doesn't have much choice but to accept his terms, which is, I am going to be married to you and loyal to you and faithful to you in all aspects except for one, and that is, if I'm on the road and I'm with a hot piece of ass wants to fuck me, then I'm going to have sex with that girl. Is that okay? Are you down with that, or are you not down with that? And Justin is a high value enough that women will share Justin with other women. Because women would rather share a successful, high value, successful alpha than to be saddled with a faithful beta. And so what happens is you have this power dynamic that is on there, because every woman that I've ever known that has been associated with either one of those guys has been very adoring and very, looking up to that guy, wanting to get with that guy, having genuine desire for that guy. And so the power dynamic is the person in the relationship who needs the other the least is the most powerful. And that's basically how human relationships work, have been for a long time. But does that sound manipulative and evil and anti-God and anti-monogamy and anti-marriage and everything else? Well, then you can look at my marriage, right? I'm very high value. I'm around women all. I'm about to go to Miami and be surrounded by beautiful women all the time. The first thing that happens whenever I show pictures, whenever I post pictures of myself at like Wet Republic or like after hour at Zook or whatever, when we're going around, the first thing anybody wants to say is, does his wife know? Isn't he married? Do you not think my wife knows exactly what I do? Like, what are you going to do? Tell on me? No, she loves the fact that I'm desired by other women. She loves the fact that I'm around, that I can still do what I do, because I'm the one that comes home and fucks her. I'm the one who is loyal to her. I'm the one who provides the lifestyle and everything else for her. And it's not even so much about that. It's a fact that women don't want to get with a guy that other women don't want. They won't, because that's an association with their ego. They don't want to get with a guy that other women wouldn't like just jump for, right? You want to know what inspires that adoration? It's the fact that that guy is valued not just by her, but by other women. The definition of a high value man, would you like it now? The definition of high value man is the guy who other men want to be and other women want to fuck. That guy is high value. How you contextualize that is up to you, wherever you want to put that on planet Earth. That is what defines a high value guy. So when you got a guy who can dictate terms of a relationship, you've got a woman who has no other choice but to be the adorer instead of the adoree, right? Which I think is good. It's a good rule of thumb, I think, for women. But I think let's go a little bit further with this.
I do find is men are quite delusional about that. They like, I think she's really into me. I can just tell, right? They want to believe a woman is far more attracted to him than she truly is. And they will ignore all the signs and take the tiny, tiny glimpses of hope that she's attracted to him. And I think that's a recipe for disaster for men when they misread a woman's signals of attraction.
Well, sure. If you
so she's not wrong about that, but here's one more caveat. Most guys don't fuck. Most guys are those 80%ers. Most guys are happy to have any woman show any interest in them whatsoever. Even the guys who are like, when we talk about like the 80%ers, the 80% guys who are basically invisible to women, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to be that way. You know, they can improve their state. They can improve their status. They can move into that 20 percentile, and very precious few of them might move into the 4.5%. But the reason why guys do that, the reason why guys are always sort of overestimating their value to that woman or overstating it anyways, is because they don't have any other choice. They have to gaslight themselves into that belief, because they are unused to having sexual opportunities. Like when it comes to infidelity, it just boils down to two things. If you're going to cheat on your spouse, you have to have a reason and you have to have the opportunity. Lots and lots of guys have the reason. She's not fucking me. She got fat. She's a bitch. I hate this part of her, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of guys who have a reason to cheat on their wives, but they don't. And you know why they don't? Because they don't have opportunity, because no one wants to fuck them. And they don't put themselves in a situation where they're not good looking enough, or they're not successful enough, or they're not high value enough to be the guy that other women want to fuck. So they lack complete opportunity, and they just simply don't have the reason. Me, on the other hand, I could say, well, I have lots and lots of opportunity, but I got no reason to cheat on my wife. I love my wife. I just knocked it out a day ago. It was awesome, right? But I don't have any reason. My wife takes care of me. And I can tell you right now, I am looking forward to the sex we have right before I fly to Miami. That's going to be a good night. I love you. But my wife takes care of me, and she knows what my situation is, and she knows who I am, and she knows what I do. Right? So people say, oh, that's manipulative and dreadful. Or, yeah, you're inspiring dread. Yeah, you're right. It does. But it's a healthy dose of it. There's nothing wrong with it. And I'm not using it manipulatively. I'm not trying to fiendishly brainwash her or anything like that. And we've been together for coming up on 29 years. So it does work. There is a healthy aspect to it. But most guys don't have that opportunity, because they simply to say, we talk about who's the adorer and who's clingy and all this other stuff, and guys convincing themselves. Most guys who are in relationships that are less than satisfying, they have to come up with sort of rationales to explain why they're in a sexless relationship. I'm staying for the kids, right? Or, my religion forbids divorce, right? Or she's really in love with me. She, she'll come around. No, the real reason is you lack opportunity. Because if you went out, if you split up with your wife, or you split up with your girlfriend or whatever, you would have to go and put yourself back out into the market. And that's a big, scary prospect for most guys, because most guys are unattractive.
You're used to not eating at all. Even crumbs taste delicious,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot of men don't have good optionality with women. And
Yeah.
so they definitely misinterpret small signs of interest as love and desire and infatuation. In fact, we know that men are also more prone to misinterpret just general friendliness as sexual interest than women are. That's why every man has fallen in love with a barista at some point. She's just doing her job, dude.
Yeah, you did a really great short. I wish I could remember it. It was something about the man not when he's not attractive. Even her buying a birthday cake is super exciting. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Yeah, it's check-in. Well, I forget the title of that episode.
Something to do with attraction.
Listen to Yourself, I think is the name of that episode. And some guys just really have to sell themselves on the idea that a woman is interested in him. And I sometimes ask for examples, and the examples of her behavior that the men give are just so basic, so minimal, like really the bare minimum any person should expect from a girlfriend or a partner. But maybe that's more than that man has ever received from a woman previously. Now, I do think that women...
Yeah, in all likelihood, that's the truth. That's the thing. Like I said before, MGTOWs and black pill doomers are just one blowjob away from like becoming red pill. Like all they need is one act of human kindness. I remember. So let me see if I can put this out there. I can remember. I was in. Here's a story time. We'll wrap after that. That's probably enough of that video right now. We'll wrap after this. I've got a story time for you. I used to live in Orlando, Florida, right? I used to be the art director for Van Gogh Vodkas, right? And one of the things I used to do is I would go to the Florida Mall in, it was like near Pine Castles in downtown Orlando, right? And I'd go to the Florida Mall and I would go eat at the food court there for lunch, right? Because it was a great place to, go around and have different styles of food and stuff. But they would have all those kiosks, they have at the malls and stuff. And, whether it's maybe it's a phone case or some shit like that. Well, there's this pair of women, and I didn't realize this till later. They're mother and daughter, okay? And they were selling those massage things, like whether it's massage your head, those little like with the wires and shit like that. And then they had like the little rollers and stuff. And what they would do is there would be guys who would be passing by and they would flirt with them just slightly. And then they would go, then they would say, here, try this. And they put the thing on. Doesn't that feel good? Blah, 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 blah. Wouldn't your wife love this? Or they're like, well, I'm single. Oh, how could you be single? And so they would and they were selling this shit like crazy. And I'm like, how the fuck are they selling this? And then I realized when I was sitting there, and I was actually taking notes because I was still writing, for SoSuave at that time. And I was taking notes and I was watching them, and they and they would only do it to guys. They would not do it to chicks. The guys were their prime demographic, and they were making money hand over fist. And it could be one of those roller things or one of those head scratchers and shit like that. And they would be there, and all it took was them to go to touch them or to like that it's Kino is basically what it is. In pickup artist language, it's Kino, right? But to touch them or to like, and I figured it out that the guys were so unused to human fucking contact that $20, no problem. I'll buy one of those wood fucking roller things. I'll probably get it in China for a nickel. Yeah, no problem, right? And they weren't paying for the little widget. They were paying for the experience to have some random chick actually take interest in them for even like 5 minutes. And I was watching that, and it's basically what strippers do too, right?
Cam girls?
Good cam girls, yeah. So you're still marketing that, but like strippers, the highest paid strippers are the ones who actually make you think that they actually give two fucks about you, right? And so it's not just a lap dance; it's hey, honey, how you doing? Oh, you're back again. Like it's like this familiarity and all this. It's like almost a girlfriend experience, but it's the contact. And that's what you want to know why guys fall in love with strippers. I really think she loves me, man. It's because they lack that human contact. Yeah, bottle girls too. You're right. They lack that human contact. You want to know, like, God, you want to talk manipulation, and I'm going to use the word evil. clubs hire atmosphere models.
Yep.
And all they're there to do is just, hey, how you doing? This is where the cool hot girls hang out. No, you're being paid $800 for this day to be there, right? How do I know? They're all on our show. And more power to them. They do what they do. They perform a vital human service out there and keep those guys from killing each other. But it's so rare that it can be commodified now. It's commercialized and commodified, right? You can monetize human touch at this point. Now, if you're a woman, not if you're a guy, because that shit's creepy. Let me get these real quick here. Do you think future generations will have more issues with red pill rage? Remember, red pill rage is part of the 5 stages of unplugging. It just depends. It depends on the individual. It depends on how they are sort of unplugging, I guess. Anger is part of what the 5 stages of grief, right? Which mirror the 5 stages of unplugging. Hopefully it is something that, ideally, it is something that men move through. And you have to remember that red pill rage, the anger phase, is not anger directed at women. It is anger directed at themselves. It's directed at themselves because they can't believe that they believed all this bullshit for so long. It's a hit to the ego. It's a hit to all the investments that their ego were invested in, right? So it essentially, the anger phase boils down to, I can't believe I believed this for so long. How could I be so stupid? Right? Now, sometimes that can boil over into sort of real, honest to God misogyny. Misogyny is very, very rare. Real woman hating by men is a very rare occurrence. Most of the time, and why do I say that? Because women will conflate anger with misogyny. And because men's default emotional response is anger. Women's default emotional response, crying. Okay. So, but the problem is anger is less socially acceptable than a woman crying. Because we want to go and help the woman, right? We live in a gynocentric social order. We have to go and do everything for the woman. A man gets angry, it's rage. It is dangerous. In fact, it's a well-studied psychological phenomenon. It's male anger, the anger bias. In our evolutionary past, it made better sense to avoid an angry man or a man who looked like he was angry than it was to go up and say, hey, are you angry? Are you okay? Because children and women avoided men who looked as if they're angry because they could die, could be killed. So if a guy looks like he's angry, or if a guy is in any way, even in the most measured form, seems like he's angry, we try to find some way to socially buffer that now. So will a woman intentionally not form a relationship with a man she regularly sleeps with in order to keep him in the alpha fucks category? If that's the case, it's probably because she's got other irons in the fire. You're thinking of guys that would be like women that would be more promiscuous. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I think it's very rare. And it would take a very insightful woman to do something like that. Most women, if they got a guy who is in the alpha fucks category, their goal is to lock that guy down. Their goal is to say, this guy fucks, and I want him all to myself. You want that? That's where the genuine desire. I think that's when you get a ride or die girl.
Circumstantial.
It's circumstantial, absolutely. But do they do that intentionally to form a relation? They don't intentionally not form a relationship with that guy. Keep him in the fuck buddy category. If that's the case, it means the girl has other irons in the fire.
She's spinning plates.
She's spinning plates. Most women spin plates as it is. Chad selects, beta takes what they can't get. Yeah. Betas get the leftovers, man. Yep. Now, I saw some stuff. You guys don't think I watch the chat. I do watch the chat. I don't just look at super chats here. And I think it's probably too far gone right now. Sorry. No, I was looking at some of the, I forget who said this, but like, oh, the red pill's purpose is to For male self-improvement, no, the red pill's purpose is no fucking purpose. I don't know how many different ways I got to fucking explain this to you, okay? There is no purpose. The red pill is information, it is education, and it is equipment, equipping you. That's what it's for. How you choose to do that is up to you. If you want to use that, like I said, the red pill is like fire. If you want to use it to cook your food and warm your house, fucking awesome. You can also use it to burn yourself to a crisp, burn yourself or burn your neighbor's home down. You can use it however you want. It's not in the red pill is about information. It's not about the use. There is no purpose to the fucking red pill. It is a praxeology, simple as that. Anything else is a practice, is a best practice. MGTOWs are very much red pill. But MGTOW itself is a practice. We're going to go our own way. We're going to just opt out. That's a practice. Why are you doing that? Well, we learned all this stuff from the red pill, and then we think that this is the best policy. Practice. White pill. Well, we think God wants us to do this. We agree with the red pill and the women's nature and everything, but we think we should practice. Black pill doomers. Oh, we're just going to sit here and commiserate. Your practice. MRAs. We think we should go march on Washington and raise hell for men's rights. Practice. That's what it is. What are you going to use this for? My relationship with my wife is fantastic. You know why? Because I understand her nature and everything else, courtesy of the red pill. Awesome. That's my practice. I think you should go out and get laid. I think you should go out and approach. I think you guys should use this to your best advantage. If it means getting in shape, if you think that I got all this new information, I understand everything, more accurately about women's nature and the confluence between the two of them and intersexual dynamics and everything like that. Got all this great knowledge. Awesome. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to male self-improvement. Yeah, men. Practice. That's what it is. That's not the red pill. That's your best practices for using what you learned in the red pill. Simple as that. It's not about hating the Jews. It's not about Trump. It's not about, taking down wokesy liberals. You can use it to do that, but that's not the purpose. There's no fucking purpose. I know that's hard to wrap your head around. It's really hard to wrap your head around. But once you do, man, it is freedom, liberating. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord.
Guilty.
There you go. What? Does Reignite and MOA fall under practices? Yes. Yes, they do. You are correct, Siege D. Thank you you go to the head of the class. Go to the head of the class. Sit at the front of the class today, Siege D. Yes. Yes, Reignite is a practice. So is MOA. You know why? Because MOA has immersion. They had immersion this week. You know how they were practicing? At Hakkasan, at Sapphire, at Zook. I don't think. I know they went to a pool party. What was the pool that opened up this week? In the rain. What was the name of it? It wasn't Tao Beach Club. It was some other. One of the big pools on the top of the roof casinos opened up this week. That was a practice. You're correct. We're all using the red pill at the pool. How fucking awesome is that? Yep. Oh God. I did also see that other chick that was in the chat, and I don't know where she went to. Too bad. I was going to respond to her too. I'm just scrolling back through this real quick just to have a look. It was way back. It was way back there. That's okay. I don't have to do that. Anyways, let's see. No Access Vegas this week. We will have, if you want to join Reignite, we have a weekly Zoom call on Reignite. If you're a member, if you are curious about the practice that is Reignite, please go check it out. It's at reignitealpha.com. is the second link down. And if you're interested in MOA and you want to actually, if you're more into sort of like approach and being proactive about things, you can join MOA. There's another link down below that too. And by the way, please read the book. Please don't criticize me unless you've read the book. What? Like, don't you always say this? Like, have you read the book? No. You've had 12 years to read the fucking book. You have no excuse. Go to the back of the class. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of people like say, like, don't you red pill guys say X, Y, and Z? I go, have you read The Rational Male? Well, no. You know you've had 12 years to do so, right? Well, yeah. So what makes you think you're an expert? Well, I'm on the internet. Well, I'm on Twitter. Aren't we all experts? So check that out. You can go pick up all of my books on Amazon. My author's profile link, which includes some new videos, by the way, is down below. It's the very first link in the description right there. I would encourage you to please go get the book if you haven't read them. And if you have, buy some more and give them to your friends. Okay, so that's it. Should we do a midweek? I don't know. I will be in Miami starting May 13th. And I will be there until the following Monday, which will be May 19th, which means I'm going to be doing this show on the 18th from my hotel room in the Hyatt. So I'll be doing a remote from there. But I will be here next week, and so will Kyle. And we'll be hitting it then as well. Let's see if anybody else. You guys are great, man. You're already gold pilled? I'm gold pilled. What does that mean? You're in isn't that like a crypto reference?
I mean, kind of.
It's kind of a crypto reference. Okay. All right, guys, we're out of here. I will see you guys next Sunday. And check out my Instagram. Also, Reignite. If you guys want to join Reignite, please have a look at that. What do you got here? Hey, Rollo, I'm a big fan. Wanted to ask what your opinion on buying gifts for chicks is. First, I thought I would be a beta, but then I found out Tate buys his chicks handbags on the regular. That's because Tate is not long for this world. No, see, when Tate buys a handbag for his girl, it's a flex. He's not buying it for her. He's buying it so all these other dudes say, hey, see, I bought this chick this fucking $1 million fucking Prada bag or whatever.
I got it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's that gift is not for her. It's for him so he can go and flex it on you guys. That's what it's about.
Don't over leverage yourself. That's about it.
Exactly. Well, the other part is when it comes to buying gifts and giving compliments and giving flowers and all of that is positive reinforcement for desired behavior. Okay. Does that mean don't buy a gift? You'll be simping. No, not necessarily. But did she suck a mean dick? Flowers suddenly arise just unexpectedly at the front door, right? Is there let's see, if you give a girl a compliment, you should always follow the 2/3 rule too, by the way. So what that means is like if a girl gives you 3 gifts, you give her 2, right? There's always has to be sort of just this slight imbalance. So by a 1/3, like a 1/3 imbalance. Now, as far as gifts and compliments and flowers and that kind of stuff is concerned, it should always be as a reward for something, for desired behavior. Let's see, host that show in FNF Studio. You know, what's funny is me and Mike actually talked about that this morning. We're like, I wonder if we could go in on Wednesday and like say this is an Access Vegas show.
Just come in.
Yeah. And we won't kick off any girls and we'll be like, yeah, that's great. Tell me more. You know, we'll get all interested in the girls, their stories and shit like that. We'll do a full Access Vegas show using the FNF Studio. I think that would be funny as fuck to do that. Thumbnail request, screenshot Rollo getting out of his chair, post it as a short reading this super chat titled Rage Quit over instantly regretted on super chats. Yeah. Take a picture of me like leaving. I'm out. Fuck this. My own show. I can't take it anymore. Yeah. All right, guys. That's good enough. I will see you guys later. See you on Sunday. Peace. Hasta la vista, baby.
need to feel you on top of me.
We're never gonna score.
It was my first time, but I was just a kid when we met and went to bed. It was my first time. What'd you expect from me? I'm breaking up the rules now in the game. I've got some new tools. Please do the same. Time came by when over like a matchbox stereo. Time to get my thoughts now, let it go. Bound to keep me up all night. But maybe we can fuck again, and maybe things be different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again, then maybe things be different.
All right.
Goddamn, baby, one more again. You could have the best in my life.
Tell these bitches to go to hell.
Now we're fucking in the bathroom, tearing up everywhere while I got your hair. Why you screaming my name?
That's nasty. It is nasty, right? Isn't it nasty? Ugh.
She was swinging in the bedroom, whole time stopping and slipping with her hair like she's Claudia Kelly.
Well, I'm a whore.
Run me up and down like a pony, turning up my song, getting messy, working up and down on your body.
Suck.
Run me up and down like a pony, turning up my song on your body. Baby, we'll get down to it. And maybe things be different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again, then maybe things be different. One more again.
City Podcast has been a production of The Rational Male. All rights reserved. Registered trademark 2025. And don't steal Kyle stuff.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Say my name. You're goddamn right.
Tell that bitch to be cool. Say bitch, be cool. Say bitch, be